Hello and welcome back to Get Up and Game. My name is Josh. Marvel Champions has been out for about 6 years now, if you can believe it. And we get brand new cards every 2 months or so. And I think we can all agree that for the most part, pretty much every new card that comes out manages to find its way into at least one or two heroes or one or two archetypes. They do a really good job of making really cool new cards for us to try out in our decks all the time. With the occasional exception, I don't know what you're supposed to do with this thing. But every now and then, a new card comes out that's so good, you really have to consider it for a lot of decks. I'm talking cards like Specialized Training and Superpower Training. You know, these cards can go in just about every deck you build if you really wanted to. With Aggression, you kind of always have to consider Hone Technique. Justice, it's hard for me not to use one way or another because it just makes Chance Encounter and Followed so consistent and fun to use. Float Like a Butterfly is another huge Justice card that really changed how we think about that aspect. Pretty much every leadership deck I build has Clarity of Purpose, or at the very least it's on the short list. And if it's the right kind of signature ally, I'm always thinking, do I want to play Sidekick in this deck? I think you could argue that Protection has probably had the most game-changing cards just because it probably started out with the fewest game-changing cards. But when Unflappable and later Hard to Ignore came out, suddenly defending was an actual value proposition. Cards like Ever Vigilant and What Doesn't Kill Me really started off the whole Always Ready archetype for Protection and find their way into pretty much every deck that can run them. Repurpose is another huge one that helped out Protection a lot. Taunt is a personal favorite, but I really do think this card works in a lot of decks. And more recently, Change of Fortune has changed how we think about Protection and has us all wanting to try out this card with a lot of different heroes. Well, along came a spider, as they say, and Silk brought us the newest card that I think has really changed Protection, Ready for a Fight. I absolutely love this card. I've been playing with it as much as I can and as many heroes as I can, and I've come to realize that this card could be just a absolute Protection staple in a lot of hero decks. And so I want to spend the rest of this video talking just about this card, and yes, if you've seen the length of this video, it really is all just about this card. So first of all, let's talk about what this card does, and then let's dig into it. It is a 1-cost upgrade. It happens to be preparation traded, but I promise you it's not only good for Black Widow. It does have a requirement of a physical resource, and so you have to play that. You can't even reduce the cost by helicarrier. You have to pay that punch. You can only have one out and play at a time. And its ability is Interrupt when an enemy would scheme, discard Ready for a Fight, and then you change to hero form and that enemy attacks you instead. So what this card is, this is unprecedented, unparalleled access to your alter ego in Protection. Probably the aspect, at least for solo, and I should say I'm coming at this from a solo perspective because I'm me, so that's pretty much everything I talk about. In solo, it is so hard to get to your alter ego in Protection except for a certain few heroes. What this card does is it comes along and lets you access your alter ego with pretty much everybody. This is a form-changing card in the aspects, which you've never seen before. It's something I know I and some others have been asking for a long time on the internet. We would love to see form-changing cards in the aspects. So those are some of the coolest cards in the game. Cards like Double Life and Body Slide and Split Personality that let you cheat and change forms when you wouldn't normally be able to. This lets every single hero do that. And if you know anything about me, you know I love going to alter ego. And I love playing Protection, and I love playing solo. So this card has just really taken me by storm to the point where I want to talk about it. So what we're going to do, we're going to dig into the details of this card. There's a few quirky things about it that are really worth talking about. And then I'm going to go through and talk about literally every single hero, all 59 heroes, and we're going to rate them on how ready I think they are for a fight. Are they not really that ready? Are they very ready? Or are they raring to go? Because I think a lot of heroes at the very least want to try this out. I think there's a few heroes that really benefit from it, but there might be a few heroes that don't really care that much. So let's get into it. The first thing I want to dig into when talking about ready for a fight is the cost of it. Now, I know that might not sound like the most exciting place to start, but it's actually a very fascinating concept here, because what you're doing is you're having to pay resources for the privilege of flipping to your alter ego and then being able to come back to hero form when the villain would scheme, so you can avoid putting a bunch of threat on the main scheme, which is something you really don't want to be doing in solo in general, and definitely in protection, because that's where it is the hardest to deal with that threat. Protection is really, really bad at removing threat from the main scheme, as you know, so we don't want to be adding to that. So ready for a fight is allowing you to avoid that and instead take an attack, which as a protection deck, you're going to be much better at dealing with. But that comes at a cost. You have to pay a resource, and really it's two resources if you think about the fact that you're paying one for the card itself, and then you're paying a card out of your hand. So it's really costing you two of the resources that you would have had access to that turn. And it doesn't really do anything on its own. It just sits on the table, and then when the enemy would scheme, you could discard it to change to hero form and get attacked. But it doesn't remove any threat from the main scheme. It doesn't deal any damage. It's not getting an important upgrade into play. You're paying two resources for essentially nothing until you decide to use it. And so you need to be able to get those two resources back. But first, let's talk about how you actually get this thing into play, because they put a punch resource on this thing, and I don't think that was an accident. They know that this is a good card. And yes, it is very thematic that you need to use a fist resource, a strength resource, to play the ready for a fight card. But I think it's also there to make it somewhat limited, because this is a very, very powerful ability. So you need to have a consistent way to pay for this if you're hoping to use it a lot. Certain heroes like Doctor Strange and Nebula and Vision and Colossus and Captain America all have appropriate resource generators, Quicksilver, the Spider People. But not every hero has access to an easy resource generator that can consistently produce punch resources or wild resources. If you're playing an Avenger, there's always Quinn Carrier, or if you are an X-Men, you can use the X-Jet. But if you don't have access to either of those, I don't know if Enhanced Physique is worth using just for this card. I haven't tried it, but there is always the build support trick to get a Quinn Carrier into play, so then everybody can have a Quinn Carrier. So if you're very, very serious about being ready for a fight, you could always do the build support Quinn Carrier combo to make sure you can get it into play, because you are going to want to make sure that you have consistent access to it if you're sort of building your deck around it. Now, I'm not saying that this is a whole archetype or anything, because really all it is giving you access to your alter ego, which is something you could hypothetically do anyway. But it's definitely a card that gets you thinking differently about how you play your hero and how you build your hero. So I found a bunch of cards with physical resources that could make this easier to play that would probably be worth including in your deck. Allies like Mockingbird, Miles Morales Spider-Man, Blade, Machine Man, Lockjaw. I'm just going to pile up a bunch of cards here. It's not the most interesting shot, but I'm just going to be doing a lot of talking about cards. The new Grant Ward, who I really, really like. And Deadpool has a wild resource, and he could fit into a lot of decks. He's just very generically useful. So all of those cards in your deck would help pay for it. And then since you're playing protection, if you're an X-Men, you can do armor. Black Widow's really good. Iron Fist is solid. Daredevil is a great thwarter in protection. You can thwart for 2 twice before he gets knocked out. Starhawk is a staple for protection decks, I think. Just a really useful ally. Rogue is super good. Clea's been around forever and still makes it into my decks. And then other cards like Hard to Ignore, Pin Down, Powerful Punch. I mean, there are a lot. What Doesn't Kill Me. A lot of really good cards with physical resources. Jump Flip, Counter Punch. I'm just piling them all up. Hard Knocks, Tackle, Momentum Shift, Shake It Off if you're a Guardian, Taunt. And the new Stop Hitting Yourself is also another really, really good card. So you could really fill your deck with physical resources if you wanted to, just to make sure you can pay for ready for a fight so that you can get it on the table. But like I said, it's not only about being able to play it, it's about being able to justify that cost. You want to be able to get that 2 resources back, those 2 effective resources back that you spent on, or you want to be getting some value from it. And that's what we're mostly going to be talking about for the rest of this video, is what is this card really doing for you? Well, for some heroes, it's making it a lot easier to play Moon Girl. Crew Quarters is a nice thing. You could flip down and heal every turn. I've been finding myself getting a lot more use out of downtime because I really like flipping down and recovering when I get to flip down to alter ego so often. And it gives you access to a few other useful abilities. Defensive training is not one of my favorite cards, but if you could access it a lot, it might be a little more worthwhile getting some protection events back. Angel's Eerie is a great way to do some healing. And Dr. Sinclair is a really cool sort of new take on Night Nurse that you get a better access to. It makes things like meditation more consistent. You can get a lot of use out of Leo Fitz if you have the right alter ego or are willing to just pay the cost, or if you have the right, if you have the shield trait, I mean. If you're playing a mutant, then that, as you might suspect, is where this card really, really shines, because my goodness, do they have a lot of things they can trigger an alter ego. I think at the very least, Moira makes it into every single mutant deck that uses Ready for a Fight, just because you're going to be flipping back to hero form almost every turn. Because, one thing I forgot to mention, I should have said this earlier, but I don't want to start over, there is also a practice plan that can go along with Ready for a Fight that is going to make it super duper consistent, where you could trigger it almost every single turn if you want to include these. Now, another cost of including Ready for a Fight is not only to pay for it, but now we're talking opportunity cost here. You're putting 3 Ready for a Fights in your deck and 3 practice plans. Potentially that's 6 deck slots, and decks are getting really crowded these days. So that's part of where I talk about how this isn't necessarily an archetype, but it does take up enough of your deck that it's really considering what you're going to build around it. So yeah, I should have mentioned this earlier, sorry about that, but yeah, practice plan is something else that kind of goes along with it. So between this and Ready for a Fight, you're going to alter ego pretty much every turn. You're flipping back to hero every turn. Moira McTaggart is going to get a ton of use, but of course they've just got things like X-Men Instruction and Mutant Education that go along with the X-Mansion that they could get access to every turn. The Danger Room is a really fun use of your alter ego if you are a mutant. Or really, even anybody can use that card. I always think you have to be an X-Men, but you really don't have to. You just have to be playing X-Men Allies. So that actually has a more widespread use than I even thought. X-Bunker is awesome with all of the player side schemes that we're all using these days. Cerebro will definitely get you value. You're going to get an ally back. And Weapon X will also get you a card back. So these are all ways that you can get a lot of value out of Ready for a Fight, because you're going to be going to your alter ego a lot more often than maybe you're used to in protection and in solo. In multiplayer, it's almost even a no-brainer, because you can already get to alter ego a lot more easily, though as the protection player you're probably not contributing to the threat. So it would be nice of you to have Ready for a Fight for the rest of the table, to not have to pick up your slack. It's still giving you a lot more access to your alter ego, but like I said, I'm mostly talking about it from a solo perspective because that's really all I've done with it. But there is just so much this card gives you access to. All of these cards are so awesome, and you can just really do a lot of things with them that maybe you couldn't do in solo much before, but this card makes it possible. So we've talked about what it's going to cost you, both in how to pay for it with that physical resource, but also the fact that you need to be spending a couple of resources, and it's taking up deck space. So there's kind of a lot that goes into this. A couple quirky things about it that I've noticed. One is if you have, say, confused the villain with, say, a Professor X, or if you happen to be playing a hero that has access to confuse, you can't actually trigger Ready for a Fight with a confused card, because the confused status, apologies for the glare here, I'm recording somewhere different and the light is not cooperating with me. If the villain's confused, you can't trigger Ready for a Fight because the status effect takes precedence over the interrupt. So before you would be able to trigger this, the enemy would already have skipped its confused, and then you're just going to have to stay in alter ego. So not that that's necessarily a bad thing, but if you're wanting to flip back into alter ego, you're not going to be able to. And that's where the magic of Ready for a Fight really comes in. Okay, I'm going to get rid of that. That glare's driving me crazy. The thing that makes Ready for a Fight so special, and I wanted to talk about it in relation to confuse, is that, yes, you can just confuse the villain, and you get a whole alter ego turn. You get to flip down and spend the end of your turn in alter ego. Then you get to start your next turn in alter ego, so you get access to all your stuff twice. And normally, in a lot of ways, that's really great. And that's where Professor X is really good, though that's the only access protection has to confuse, minus whatever your hero may come with. But the real magic of Ready for a Fight, and the thing that makes this card so special, is if you're playing protection, there's a really good chance that you would rather be in your hero form during the villain phase anyway. Like, yes, we all want to go to alter ego and trigger all our cool stuff and draw an extra card, maybe heal, that's wonderful. But then if you're in Alter Ego and you're playing a protection deck, a lot of the cards in your hand probably interact with what the villain is doing. You'd probably rather be attacked, so you can trigger your energy barriers or play your defense events. Or maybe you're playing a hero like Black Widow or Spider-Man, or so many that have really, really good effects that trigger during the villain phase. Ghost Spider is another huge one. But if you're in Alter Ego, you can't trigger any of that stuff, and those all become dead cards in your hand, dead cards on the table. And so that's where Ready for a Fight is just so good, in that you get access to your Alter Ego, but you still get to be in your hero form during the villain phase. So you're really getting the best of both worlds. And that's really going to affect the ratings for where I put these heroes, whether they don't want any Ready for a Fights, whether they just want a few or a lot. Is there are some heroes that would love to access their Alter Ego, but they would also prefer to be in hero form during the villain phase, and that's where this card really, really shines. A quick apology for the scatterbrained nature of this video. I don't have a script, and I'm trying to do this rather quickly. You may have noticed I hardly ever do this anymore, and it's because I don't have a lot of time, but I'm just so excited about this card, I had to make a video about it, and so I'm kind of just doing this on the fly as quickly as I can. So I hope all of my thoughts are coming through clearly. So I talked about how it doesn't really work with Confuse, which is kind of a quirky thing to know about this card. Another thing that's important to know about this card is that it's really only half a trip to Alter Ego. I kind of mentioned a little bit ago that, you know, typically you get to go to Alter Ego at the end of your turn, maybe you do some stuff, the villain phase happens, then you start your turn in Alter Ego. And, you know, you're not going to be starting your turn in Alter Ego with this card. You're going to be flipping back to hero form during the villain phase. So it's really only half a trip to Alter Ego, so you got to make sure that you get that value just from, you know, one turn or round, or however you want to think about it, one bit of being in Alter Ego where you normally get two. So there is a bit of a trade-off there, but you know, in my opinion, you hardly ever get to go to Alter Ego at all in solo protection. So half a trip to Alter Ego is certainly better than none. And another just quirky thing about it, I think that's interesting, is you can still play Nick and get all the benefits of him, and you can still flip down, and then normally it's a waste if you were to flip down on the same turn as Nick, but you can still flip up and he can still block for you. And I know that's kind of a weird random thing to throw in there, but I've actually found that to be really, really nice, because one thing you have to be considering here is if you are a hero that likes to go to Alter Ego to hide a little bit, you know, to avoid that attack, you're not getting that benefit. You're getting attacked every single turn. So you're really going to need blockers. You're really going to need toughs. You're going to need defense. You know, some way you need to be thinking about the fact that you're going to be taking a hit from the villain every single turn, as opposed to at least occasionally, hopefully, getting to Alter Ego and avoiding that. So I like how Nick still really works that. In decks with a lot of Confuse, sometimes Nick isn't the best option, even though he's such a great card, because if you're going to be going to Alter Ego a lot, you end up sometimes wasting his block. And again, that's true with Professor X as well. You know, you confuse, and then you kind of have to wait a turn to flip down because you don't want to waste that block. And so Professor X, I find I don't use as much in the Ready for a Fight decks. Obviously, he's still very, very good. He thwarts for 3. If you're playing an X hero, he can ready them. Maybe you can stun a minion if you don't want to confuse. So just a couple staple cards that I think interact with Ready for a Fight in an interesting way. And so I think that's everything I had to say about the card itself in sort of a vacuum. And so now, like I said, what we're going to do, we're going to go through every single hero. And there's 59 of them. And even if I only talk about each one for a minute, that's still going to be another hour. But I'm actually really excited about this because I've been trying not to think about it because I wanted to save my thoughts for the video. This is sort of me reacting to how I think every single hero will play with Ready for a Fight in solo. And so other than the ones I've played or seen played, if you watch Nelson all over, which I'm sure you do, he posted quite a few videos showcasing this card. It's clear he loves it too. And so if I haven't played it myself, maybe I've seen him play it. And so that's going to help guide thoughts on some heroes, but there are many, many that I haven't even thought of yet of how it's going to work. So I've gone through and I've picked out a few cards that I think will work with each one. But a lot of it is just going to be me sort of reacting in real time to how good Ready for a Fight is with that hero. So it's very possible I won't think of certain interactions or certain combos. And you can feel free to point those out in the comments and we can have a really fun dialogue about it. But for now, we're just going to jump in and we're going to start going through every hero in alphabetical order and see how ready for a fight they really are. All right, so let's just dive into this. If I put a hero on the red mat, that means they are not ready for a fight at all. They're not interested in playing with this card. It's not worth the deck space, or it's very difficult for them to pay for, or they don't really have a lot of use to go to alter ego, that type of thing. I'm hoping, for the sake of this video having been worth making, that the fewest heroes end up in this pile. But like I said, I tried really hard not to think too far ahead because I wanted to just sort of talk about it in real time. If I put a hero on the yellow mat, the idea is they could certainly benefit from, say, having 3 copies of Ready for a Fight. It's not something they need to trigger every turn, but they're going to be able to get at least some benefit from it, and it's something worth considering every time you build a deck for them. And then if I put someone on the green, that means they're just raring to go. They are chomping at the bit. They are so ready for a fight that they've got 3 Ready for a Fights and 3 practice plans in their deck, and they just want to be triggering it every single turn to really get the maximal use out of it. So let's just dive in. Like I said, I'm going alphabetically. So we're going to start talking first about Adam Warlock. So Adam Warlock's alter ego ability, first of all, is that he has an action. You can discard a card from your hand to remove a status card. I kind of always forget that that even exists, but that is something that you would have access to. And discarding 1 card to remove a status is a little bit cheaper than exhausting. Exhausting is generally considered costing about 2 resources. So discarding 1 card to remove a status card is nice. The thing about Adam that is kind of weird is that he can only include 1. So you can't be too ready for a fight no matter what. He could have 1 ready for a fight and 1 practice plan. He does have a karmic staff, which makes it easy for him to pay for it consistently. And his alter ego support is Soul World, which is something you really only need to trigger once per deck pass. Every time his deck runs out, he can exhaust this to heal to full. It's definitely something he wants to be doing, so he wants that access, but he only needs it about once a deck pass. But you can only include 1 ready for a fight, so it's probably fine. Pip the Troll is really the only reason he cares that much about being in hero form when it comes to wanting to trigger Ready for a Fight to get back into hero. If you have Pip the Troll in your hand, you can play it during the villain phase when you're being attacked to get that down. Not that big of a deal. You can also just play him from your hand as normal. And then Cosmic Ward is not a hero interrupt, so you can use this even from alter ego, so that's also not that big of a deal if he can't get to alter ego, or if he can't get back to hero form quickly. So I think the fact that he can only include 1 and a practice plan if he really, really wanted to, I don't think he needs it. He can include lots of cards that let him confuse, and he's not that excited about getting back to the hero form. I apologize, the camera's really shaking the way I have it set up, but we're going to say he is not that ready for a fight. This glare, well, there's not much I can do about at this point. So the second hero we're going to be talking about is, got a giant pile of cards here, Angel. Now, Angel has the alter ego ability that when he is in alter ego, he can heal 1 just by spending as an action. So he'd be able to heal, say, 1 per turn if he were to get to alter ego regularly. But he kind of already has easy access to alter ego metamorphosis. You know, he's a form changer. He flips back and forth all the time into his bigger forms, Archangel form. He kind of has easy access to his alter ego, whether it's through metamorphosis or the fact that he can easily confuse the villain with adaptive plumage. So he already has easy access to alter ego. Now, one thing I forgot to mention about Ready for a Fight that is nice is if you're playing against a steady or stalwart villain, then even heroes with a lot of confuse may find some benefit from Ready for a Fight, because then you can still get to alter ego frequently. But he has really good access normally. He, as far as wanting to be an alter ego, you can use Worthington Industries. Works a little bit better if you're an alter ego, because you can always use it to shuffle a hero card into your deck from your discard pile. But if you're an alter ego, you do get to draw a card, so it's better to use an alter ego, so you could flip down and make use of that. And the only reason he really cares about being in hero form during the villain phase is he does have a decent boost defense card in aerial agility, so he can make use of this when he's in alter ego. Another thing, or when he's in hero form during the villain phase, another thing that Ready for a Fight would let him do is he would be able to dodge the acceleration on Archangel. You know, if he was an alter ego at the beginning, and then when the villain would scheme, and then he used Ready for a Fight, he could flip in an Archangel form, he would have dodged that acceleration. So that's something to consider. I think that as a quirky, cool thing he can do with it. But again, because he has such good access to Alter Ego already, even without staying down, he can just Metamorphosis down and then flip back up. And he doesn't care that much about being an Alter Ego or the hero. Yeah, I think we're starting out 2 for 2. Heroes that maybe don't care that much about Ready for a Fight. Hopefully that turns around soon. Like I said, I want this to have been worth talking about. It's fun for me, but we need some good heroes here. Unfortunately, I don't think we've gotten to one yet. Ant-Man is probably notoriously the hero least interested in his alter ego. Scott Lang would just much rather be a superhero than home on the couch. When he does flip down, he gets to heal and damage, so you could flip down to heal 1 and then Ready for a Fight to get back into the villain phase. But you'll notice I don't actually have any other cards with me to talk about with him because he doesn't have an alter ego support. He doesn't really have any cards that do anything during the villain phase. He doesn't have a defense card or anything. So he doesn't really fit any of the criteria. He does have pin particles with a couple wilds I guess I could have grabbed that make it somewhat easy to pay for Ready for a Fight. But he doesn't need to flip down and heal. His recovery of 3, you know, he can heal so much with his helmet and with the pin particles that, yeah, Scott I'm going to guess that this is actually going to end up being the hero that is the least interested in using Ready for a Fight. So what is that, 0 for 3? Starting the villain off, or starting the video off rather. I sure hope we find somebody that likes this card soon. And I think maybe we've finally gotten one in Bishop. Now, Bishop quite likes to flip to his alter ego because when he does, you get to add a temporal card in your discard pile to your hand. And the interesting thing about Bishop and some of the other heroes were the way they interact with Ready for a Fight. I talked about how you're really only getting half a trip to alter ego because you don't get to start the next turn in alter ego. You've already changed to hero form. He doesn't really care because his ability only triggers when he flips down. So he gets all the benefit immediately, allowing him to return temporal cards. So you could get, you know, one of your armor or your gun if you've discarded them, one of your allies. You could always get your resource card by flipping down. He's a mutant, so he has access to all the really, really good mutant things. I definitely want to put Moira in there. So that's all looking good. He has a 4 recovery. If you wanted to heal with him, you could. And we know that he wants to be in hero form during the villain phase because, you know, of course, he wants to be taking attacks, taking the damage. They can discard cards to get resource cards. He can heal right back up with the uniform. And he has such an awesome defense card and energy conversion that he definitely wants to be in hero form during the villain phase. But I think his alter ego is interesting enough that he wants to flip down at least occasionally to either to get, like I said, get back a card that he missed, like the uniform or the rifle, or, you know, just to recycle those resource cards. And I think he would be willing to do that if he had easy access. Obviously, he could easily pay for it with all the resource cards you're going to put in his deck. Surely some of them will have wilds. He himself doesn't have a resource generator that could pay for it, but you have just access to so many ways to pay for it that I'm going to say Bishop is mildly interested. He is ready for a fight. He's not super committed, but he is ready for a fight. So I think we're getting our first hero that would at least like to have access to 3 of them to make some use of his alter ego that he might not otherwise get access to. Next up, we have one of 2 Black Panthers. And we know that his alter ego is nothing. He has no alter ego ability, so that's not a good start. He does, however, have one of the best, if not the best, alter ego supports in the game, rivaled mainly, possibly only by his counterpart, in that you can exhaust this to draw 2 cards. So if he were to flip down with Ready for a Fight, you could immediately exhaust this to draw 2 cards. Now, one thing I did want to mention about Ready for a Fight that's interesting, because you are only getting to flip down and use it, you're not going to be in alter ego when your turn starts. Whatever cards you draw, you might not be able to play them if they are, you know, hero form only cards. Like if you draw some events or something, if part of your alter ego experience is drawing cards, like, you know, the Golden City, you flip down, draw 2 cards, you might draw 2 cards you can't play. You know, you might get some events or whatever. So that's something to consider when building decks, when using Ready for a Fight, is you might want to make sure you have a lot of allies or upgrades, or at the very least, you're going to want to hold something in your hand before you flip down. That way, if you do draw a couple cards you can't play with Golden City, for example, you're still going to have something to play. Otherwise, I suppose you're kind of setting up your next hand if you wanted to, but then it probably wasn't worth playing Ready for a Fight in the first place. But you're getting 2 cards back. That right there kind of nullifies the cost. We're looking for 2 resources worth of value pretty much whenever we do flip down with Ready for a Fight. He does have Ancestral Knowledge that you can only use in Alter Ego. You can shuffle some cards back in, which is pretty nice. You can get a Wakanda Forever back, a Vibranium back, maybe the Shuri ally. So he himself isn't getting much done, but I think his Alter Ego is definitely something he wants access to. As far as being in the hero form during the villain phase, you know, he wants to get hit because he has a Retaliate. It's not that big of a deal, but it's nice. He doesn't have any defense events or anything, so I wouldn't say it's crucial for him, but I do think his Alter Ego is definitely worth accessing. Paying for it, he has access to the Quinn Carrier, and I suppose he could overpay it for it with a Vibranium at the very least. So we're going to say that Black Panther is interested in at least being somewhat ready for a fight. Now, the other Black Panther just came out, brand new. I don't know about you guys, but I am absolutely loving Shuri. She has blown me away. Probably one of the most heroes that I was maybe somewhat the least interested in. Not that I wasn't, but, you know, I wasn't super excited to how much I love playing her. She is so awesome. Her Alter Ego ability is amazing. If you exhaust her, you can search your deck and get a card and pay for it for 2 resources less, so she can easily play her upgrades, but you can get other stuff like energy barriers and all kinds of things, sonic rifles. It's just awesome. So she definitely wants access to this. She's got a good recovery. I didn't mention that with Black Panther. You get access to recovery, which is nice. She's also Black Panther, but you know what I mean. As far as her Alter Ego, she has Queen Ramonda for some really good healing, and the Elephant's Trunk for some really good card draw. So she definitely wants to be accessing her Alter Ego because she can just easily heal right back up, draw cards, or if you don't need to heal, you can draw a couple cards. If you have Dora Milaje, you can actually draw 3 cards with Elephant's Trunk if you're not using it for anything else. Just incredible. So her Alter Ego experience is phenomenal. I see I have a Panther Clause here. I don't remember why I included it, but okay, sure. She can go get Panther Claws, their Alter ability. Maybe that's why I put that there. I'm not sure. I made the stack of cards like a week ago, and then I just never had time to make the video. So there you go, a little behind the scenes. So yeah, I think she definitely wants to be flipping down as often as possible. As far as being in hero form during the villain phase, I grabbed a couple cards. I think she really does want to defend. You know, if you're playing her protection, you use Indomitable already because every time she activates, she gets to use her ability. So you want to be activating as often as possible, and she can do this in the villain phase. So you could ready with like Desperate Defense or Indomitable, and you would get an extra use. Maybe that's why I include the Panther Claws, basically illustrating, you know, you could trigger this during the villain phase very easily. And so I think what we have here is our first hero. I think would be worth including 3 Ready for a Fights and 3 practice plans. I think she wants to be flipping down every single turn. You can get so much use out of her. She does have some confuse with the coil beads, but I think even without that, she is as ready for a fight as they come. Let's put 6 cards in her deck just to give her access to that amazing Alter Ego. I'm so sorry about this glare. Now we come to the real star of the show, is obviously Black Widow, right? Like obviously. Ready for a Fight is a preparation, so she gets to draw a card when she plays it. Right back there is one of the 2 value we're looking for whenever we use Ready for a Fight. She gets 1 back immediately just for playing it, and then of course you get 1 when you draw the bigger hand size. So, you know, already it pays for itself. She can easily pay for it with Black Widow's Gauntlet, so she has no problem getting it on the table. The thing that makes it so incredible for her is the fact that you can use Safe House to recycle it. And if you're feeling really cheeky, I grabbed Agent 13 because you could actually use Safe House twice. If you have this much access to your Alter Ego, then you can really build into it. And you could bring Agent 13 just to use with the Safe House because you're going to be getting so much access to it. It's worth including in your deck. Even if this is the only target, though, you could also have a Helicarrier, of course. She's got 2 gauntlets, very easy to pay for it. So you could use, say, the Safe House to get back the Ready for a Fight, and something like Attack Acrobatics makes it really easy to defend. If you have the Synth Suit, she can flip right up into hero form and immediately defend with this. And the way the timing works, I'm not going to lay it all out here, but you'll have to take my word for it. Smart people online have said this is how it works, is if you trigger a Ready for a Fight to flip into hero form and then defend with the Synth Suit, you will get to immediately ready with the Synth Suit because it won't register the Ready for a Fight had triggered a preparation until after the attack. So you basically get a free defense with the Synth Suit, and then you'll be able to trigger the Widowmaker ability. Now, it doesn't trigger off of the practice plan if you have one of those, which of course you're going to have practice plans with Black Widow anyway. So it's just, obviously this is a match made in heaven. You don't need me to tell you the Ready for a Fight is going to be good with Black Widow, but it's so good. Like literally, I don't really like Black Widow. I've never been a fan of this hero because of the very thing that Ready for a Fight makes possible. She wants to go to Alter Ego because this is so good and this is so good. But then she can't trigger these things because they're all hero abilities. So for me, it's always been a real feel bad. I want to flip down and make use of this stuff. But then, you know, I watch stuff come into play that I can't react to because I'm in Alter Ego. And the next turn I flip up and I can't get rid of it because Black Widow's not good at dealing with things. She's just good at preventing things. But with Ready for a Fight, I get to flip down, draw my extra cards, recycle all my stuff, get all this use out of it, and then immediately flip right back into hero form and get to use it all immediately. This card has transformed Black Widow for me. It's made me fall in love. Really just this deck. This is literally the only Black Widow deck I will ever play again because it's the only way I find her fun is she gets the best of both worlds. So yeah, if the camera were pulled back, I'd put her all the way at the end to the right. If we were ranking these, like she's definitely the best use of it. But not the only one. It's kind of one of the main points I wanted to make. She's not the only person that gets good use out of it, but she definitely she gets an insane amount of value. Ready for a Fight Black Widow is an awesome, awesome deck. Okay, moving on, we have Cable. Very much love Cable. As far as his Alter Ego goes, he's not that excited about it. He doesn't have an Alter Ego ability, so that's not good. So he's not getting any value from that. He does have the Professor, which allows him to either draw a card or get a player side scheme. That's obviously very good for him. So you can get the 2 resources back with drawing the extra card size, hand size, and then, get a card here. So there's your 2. So it was worth playing, but something you have to keep in mind, if you're going to be putting these cards in your deck, it might not be enough to just get the resource value back. There's some consistency there. You want to really be making good use of it. As far as, and he can already get there with Body Slide. That's why that card's in the pile. Like, he has access to, he can do this at least once per flip. He doesn't have any Confuse, but at least he can Body Slide. So there is that. As far as wanting to be in the hero form during the villain phase, the only thing he really has is a Scani Sun. I don't know if anybody even really uses this card. Maybe you do. And maybe you would in Protection, I guess, but it's going to let you thwart an Alter Ego. So he would prefer to be using that in Protection very possibly. So he likes being in hero form. I think I'm wavering between it doesn't care at all and might be worth including 3. But he is a mutant, so you could build in some things. Just having access to Moira alone might make it worth it for every single mutant to include 3. I do like Professor because getting those player size, I'm going to say you could toss a couple in there, maybe not even the full 3, maybe even just having a couple. Like I said, it's not an archetype. You don't have to build a whole deck around it, but having maybe even just 2 in there to give him access occasionally might be worthwhile. We're going to put him here in the middle. I think he's sort of very middling on it. It's something I would certainly try. I've never really played Cable in Protection, I don't think. But someone I have played in Protection quite a bit is Captain America Steve Rogers. And I can tell you from experience, this is one of the decks I played. I played Black Widow. Black Widow was the first one of all of these that I played. I don't think I actually ended up using it with Shuri yet, as much as I think she would love it. And none of the rest of them. But I have played Captain America, and he absolutely loves this card. First of all, obviously you get the 2 resources back. You get your discount on an ally. So as long as you flip down and play an ally, you're getting 1 resource back there. And the bigger hand size, boom. You got your resource value out of it. It's really nice to have stunned the villain and then flip up with Ready for a Fight and then immediately not get attacked. So that having access to the stun is really nice, or he can always just shield block the attack. Obviously it's very easy for Steve Rogers to just get attacked every turn. He doesn't care between stun and the shield block. And if you really have to defend, he's got a 3 defense with Retaliate. Absolutely no problem defending every single turn. He does have Steve's Apartment, so you can heal for 1 and draw cards. There's even more resource value. Now you're making money off of Ready for a Fight. You're getting 3 resources back for it. And he can easily pay for it with the Super Soldier Serum. I don't need to go on and on. This is a real home run. Steve Rogers with Ready for a Fight, 3 practice plans. It's worth recycling. You want to hit it every single turn. You get so much value out of it, and it's a really, really fun way to play him. So we're definitely putting him in the right pile. You can't tell because of all the glare, but I promise that's where he is. I'm really running through these as quickly as I can. I don't want this to be a 2-hour video about one card. Captain Marvel. All right, we're still in the early C's. She She does quite like her alter ego. You just straight up draw a card. Okay, well, there's your 2 resource value. You get to draw a card here, you get your hand size. She has Alpha Flight Station, just absolutely incredible. And alter ego, you're trading 1 card for 2, so clearly that is very good. She does have access to some confuse, but 1 confuse per deck pass doesn't like break the whole ready for a fight thing, so that's totally fine. So she can just have an incredible amount of access to her alter ego in protection with ready for a fight. She's going to get a lot of card draw from it. As far as being in the hero form during the villain phase, I don't think she cares that much. She can easily heal, so she doesn't mind tanking hits and then healing up from it. It's not that big of a deal. So I don't think it's like crucial that she couldn't just stay in alter ego if the villain was confused. She's not really missing out on anything. And she doesn't exactly have a ton of punch resources. She focuses more on lightning. So for that reason, even though I think you could get a lot of value for the times that you use it, I don't think you need more than 3. I don't think you need the practice plan. So I kind of put her in the middle. Definitely a card she likes, could easily play a deck with it, but I don't think you're, trying so hard that you're putting 3 practice plans in there with her too. I think just the 3 ready for fights could be a fun way to play her. Now, Colossus is another one that I have played. And having not played Colossus for a while, when I played it, I was thinking it was going to be a home run for him. He has an ability, he's a mutant, so right there, you get Moira and you get all the other mutant stuff if you want to. Though one thing I have found, I was going to talk about this with another hero later, but I'll just talk about it now. I keep saying that with the mutants, but it's not as simple as just, yes, I will play all the alter ego supports in my deck, and then I'll get a ton of value out of ready for a fight. It sounds good on paper, but when you actually do it in practice, that's a lot of cards you have to pay for and play, while also, trying to stay alive in protection in solo, which is probably the hardest way to play this game because mainly the threat removal is just, protection's terrible at it. And so you're kind of fighting for your life sometimes when you're playing protection in solo. It's a lot of fun, but it's a challenge. And then so I can't just be like, oh, and then you play Cerebro and Danger Room and Moira and X-Bunker. And like, yeah, it sounds great, but when are you going to play those cards when you're desperately trying not to lose the game? So it's easy to say that, and there's something there, but it doesn't automatically make every mutant really good for this card is what I'm saying. But he does have one of those abilities that when he flips down, he gets to do something good immediately. It doesn't get him any resources, but you do get a card back into your deck, which is consistency, which is nice. He can easily pay for it with titanium muscles. He has his studio, which does give him a card. So you're getting value back, and he only has a 4 hand size in hero, and you get 6 if you start your turn alter ego. So he's getting 2 extra cards right there just for flipping down. You're getting a boost to your hand size. So the 4 hand size heroes, if you have a 6 hand size alter ego, already automatically potentially get a huge boost from it. Here's the problem where I found with Colossus is he already has armor up, which is basically, the same thing as ready for a fight, lets you flip into hero when the villain would scheme, which is good. So he can already do that twice anyway. And he has a ton of confuse in his deck. He has 2 or 3 steel fists, and you can shuffle him back in along with the armor ups too, if you really, really wanted to. So he has so much access to his alter ego that it ended up being redundant when I played him. I didn't trigger ready for a fight once because I was already flipping back and forth. Now, if you're playing against a steady or stalwart villain, he could still do the armor ups, though he couldn't do the steel fist. So maybe, but he just didn't need it. Like, it just ended up being total overkill, totally redundant. Definitely 3 cards. Well, actually, I was doing 6 because I had the practice plans too, because I thought he was going to love it. But that was 6 card slots that definitely could have been better spent in my deck. Probably trying to remove threat. Colossus is so bad at it. So he can be very challenging in protection and solo anyway without wasting 6 slots on a card he does not care about. So we're going to put him back over there. First one in a little while. Not interested. Now we're still talking about mutants here. Cyclops, one of my absolute favorite mutants to play. Really, really fun. As far as his alter ego, you do get to search your deck for a tactic upgrade and add to your hand. So you could flip down and grab that. There's your 2 resources plus 1 hand size in that. So you could get the resource value back if you wanted to. But the thing is, a lot of the tactics are the ones he puts on minions and the villain, and they all have temporary. So unless you have field commander out, if you did this, then it would be worth throwing one on a minion that you hadn't killed. And then you could, the next turn you could flip up and kill it. Other than that, he doesn't really get anything out of his alter ego. Now, he definitely wants like Cerebro and the trick with like Utopia and Honorary X-Men, so he could say recover twice. He has reasons to be an alter ego, and he wants those mutant supports, but I don't think he's that worried about it. Flipping back and forth is nice with Scott if you can do it, but it's certainly not necessary. So I think this is just a real quick one. He doesn't have any real reason to want to be in hero form during the villain phase. He's happy to hide an alter ego and not get hit. He's pretty good at removing threat and thwarting, so he's okay with being an alter ego. So we're going to say that he's not as interested in being ready for a fight as much as Scott Summers the person may be. I don't think Cyclops the hero really cares that much about that card. Now, Deadpool should be interesting. I haven't given one thought to what Deadpool thinks of this card yet, so this should be interesting. So when you use alter ego, you get just an incredible ability. You discard a card from your hand to go get a Deadpool event. But see right there, you're getting an event, so you wouldn't even be able to play it. I think they're probably all hero interrupts, yeah. Like you wouldn't be able to use meta knowledge to block a villain anymore, a treachery, or any encounter card actually. Gosh, that card's so good. Any of the events that you get with him by flipping down at the end of your turn, you wouldn't be able to play. You'd have to hold on to him. You do get access to the Chimichanga truck is nice, but obviously the whole thing with Deadpool is that he takes damage and he flips down. He just gets knocked out and goes to alter ego anyway. So he kind of has ready for a fight, not exactly built in, but he has alter ego access absolutely built in. Now Moira is already a staple for Wade, so you would have that card, but we can just say Deadpool. I don't know how ready for a fight. I mean, I guess he is as a person, similar to Cyclops, but yeah, he has no use for that card whatsoever. Doesn't do anything for him. All right, we're getting back to another bad streak. We need to find some good ones here. I want this pile to be at least close to this one so that we say this card is as good as I said it was. Doctor Strange. Did anybody play Doctor Strange anymore? I haven't played him in a while, but I do like him more than I think a lot of people do. He has a really solid alter ego. He lets you fiddle around with the invocation deck, which is more useful than it used to be since they nerfed Cosmo, and he doesn't work with Cosmo anymore. So you want as much ability to manipulate that deck as you can. So that is nice. It doesn't get you any resources, though, so we're not getting our value back. He has a wild resource generator, so he can easily pay for ready for a fight. He does have plenty of access to Confuse. I guess that's why I have this here. I don't remember why I put some of these cards in this deck. So he can easily flip down if he wants to. He wants to be in hero form because he has access to things like Protective Ward. Only works if you're in hero, so it's always stinks to have this card in your hand and you're in alter ego and can't play it. So flipping up would be nice. He has really good alter ego support. That lets you get a spell back and draw a card, so you're getting your value. And he also has Mystical Studies. Search your deck and discard power for a Doctor Strange card, add to your hand. So like this could go get your Sanctum, this could go get your resource generator. Cards like that are certainly nice. I think he can definitely get some use out of this. He can certainly afford it. He's got a great economy with the Winds of Batum and everything. Got a resource generator. I think I would quite like to try Doctor Strange with just the 3 copies. I don't think he needs to revolve his deck around it or anything. But I think he would be fun to use it with. Next up, we have Domino, and I set aside quite a few cards, so she must have a lot going on here. So Domino, we know that her ability is to choose a card in your hand and swap it with the top card of your discard pile. Now, this can be absolutely bonkers if you're getting your 3 resource card back. So you could use this to pay for something expensive and then immediately get it back in your hand. So that right there is a ton of value for being an alter ego. Now, you only have 1 copy of Jackpot, so that isn't going to work every single turn, but it is a very fun thing to do. She also has the Painted Lady, which lets you get some cards back that have been discarded from your deck with her hero power. She has Pip the Pug that also lets you do some things in Alter Ego. So she has a lot of access to things to do in Alter Ego. Now, as far as if she wants to be in hero form, well, she has things like Lucky Break that allow her to manipulate things. So you need to be in hero form to use this. So she has a good reason to prefer to be in hero form that way. And probability field, I'm guessing I put this here because she can defend for a lot. Honestly, I don't remember why I put this card in this pile. But she definitely can defend very well. So, you know what? Actually, I'm looking at this now. I'm realizing you can use this to recover. I never noticed that before, so maybe that's why. I don't think that's why I put that here, because I don't think I knew that before this very moment. This is not a hero ability, so you could use this. She could recover very well. She's got a ton of wilds, so obviously she can easily pay for ready for a fight. You know, she has so much going on in Alter Ego, and she has no access to Confuse. I think she might be a really good candidate. I think this would be a really fun deck to try, because she can so easily pay for it. She can do so much in Alter Ego that, you know, I'm going to put her in the very good, very ready for a fight. That's on my list of decks I want to try. I think she could work really, really well. Now, Drax, on the other hand, is a very funny case, because if I said Ant-Man is the person least interested in going to their Alter Ego, well, a Drax might have something to say about that, because Drax actively gets penalized for going to Alter Ego, because he's going to lose his awesome, awesome vengeance counters that he worked so very hard to get. And yeah, he gets to heal a ton, but then you got to start over. And the whole thing with Drax is you want to get him built up and keep him built up. So you don't really want to be flipping down. I included all these cards to show why he wants to be staying in hero form, but I really don't need to make that point any harder than just saying he does not want to lose all his counters. However, there is an interesting use case for ready for a fight, even for heroes like Drax. And I'm looking, I don't know where I put the card, but it says that you change to hero form. When the villain would scheme, you change to hero form, the villain attacks you instead. You don't actually have to change to hero form. It's not part of the cost. You can use that if, say, an advance comes out and you have it ready for a fight on the table. You can just pop it and the villain will attack you instead. It's actually advance insurance. It protects you against the villain scheming. So I think it still might be worthwhile to put 1 or 2, probably not 3, in Drax, just because he's so bad at removing threat that an advance can easily cause him to lose the game. It only costs him 1, and he draws so many individual cards with his Dweethite Mastery. All that being said, yeah, he could include that card, but certainly the point of the video is talking about really the main benefit you get from it. That is a cute little benefit you could potentially get. I don't think that's quite enough to move him up to the middle category. We're gonna, is it? It might be. We're gonna say here. I don't know. I'm not that excited about putting 1 or 2 of those in the deck. And even if I was, I don't think that counts as being ready for a fight. So yeah, we're going to put Drax where it seems kind of obvious where he belongs as far as this card is concerned. But it is a useful thing to know that if it's on the table, you can still use it to block a villain scheming, even if you're in hero form. Gambit. Gambit is one that I'm pretty sure Nelson played Gambit with this card. So I'm pretty sure I saw him play it. And yeah, Gambit just has so much to do in Alter Ego with his hero ability, and you can play his Creole Charmers and the Thieves Guild. He's just got a lot going on, but he also has reasons to be in hero form. You know, he's got a staff to deal with damage. It's not nothing. It's not much, but it's not nothing. He's got his armor. Obviously, he wants to defend because he gets a free ready out of it, and he's got such a good defense card that, you know, you can't use it if you're in Alter Ego and you're not getting attacked, and you get your free charge counter and you don't take any damage and you get the ready and all that stuff. So yeah, Gambit is definitely almost the prototypical case of why this card is so good, that you get access to an amazing Alter Ego, but you also get to deal with all the hero stuff in the villain phase. That is what you want to see. I think Gambit with 3 ready for fights and 3 practice plans is a really, really good thing to try. Gamora, a hero that I have somewhat recently come to appreciate a lot more than I used to. I don't know if I'll ever do another hero ranking, but I can tell you if I did, Gamora has moved way up. Just something about, I don't know if I changed or if some new cards came out that I just started to appreciate more, but I really, really like Gamora a lot more than I used to. Now, does she like Ready for a Fight is the real question here. Well, she gets to look at the top card and potentially draw an attack or thwart, so she flips down. But again, that's going to be a card that you can't play because it's going to be an event, so you'd have to consider holding it for the next turn, so you're losing value there. She does have a good Alter Ego support in the conditioning room, that you get a card back in your hand and you get to heal, but again, it's a card you're not going to be able to play. So what we're seeing here is Gamora really wants to be starting her turn in Alter Ego, but she doesn't really care about ending her turn in Alter Ego, and that's all you're going to get out of Ready for a Fight. And then she has a really good defense card, so she definitely wants to be in the hero form during the villain phase. She likes playing cross counter. You get a lot of value out of that. And other cards she might play that have the attack and thwart trait during the villain phase that she could trigger. So I'm going to say Gamora, not super interested in being ready for a fight, at least not in the Marvel Champion sense. She just doesn't get enough use out of flipping down at the end of her turn. Now, Ghost Spider, if I could pick up the giant pile of cards I set aside for her, so I guess I have a lot to say here. Ghost Spider is one that I've always wanted to... My gosh, I really grabbed a lot of cards. I always wanted to get access to Alter Ego with, because it's a really useful power. You can shuffle your Ticket to the Multiverse back in, which if I set aside, yep, it's a double wild. So that's a card you definitely would like to see more than once per deck pass. So you can get that back in your deck. Or, you could ready George Stacy, except you won't have him because the obligation will steal him, because that's the only thing that ever happens. And I know I'm not bitter about it. But hypothetically, if in an alternate universe, your George Stacy wasn't stolen and you had access to him, then you could use this to get a couple uses out of it. So she has a very interesting Alter Ego power, which is my point. But the problem is, I mean, if you play Ghost Spider, like she wants to be in hero form during the villain phase. She has all these cards that only work if you are getting attacked, if you're in hero form during the villain phase. So flipping down with Gwen, I thought I would enjoy her with Upside the Head, because that's a really easy way for her to get to Alter Ego. But and it triggers her abilities, but then you're in Alter Ego during the villain phase, and that's not what you want, because then you can't play like any of the other cards in your hand probably. So you get to trigger this, but that's it. So this is another case where Ready for a Fight is perfect. She gets to flip down. You can shuffle your Ticket to the Multiverse back in, and if you have George, you can use him twice maybe. Parental Guidance is a really useful Alter Ego event that almost never gets played, because she just doesn't always have the best access to Alter Ego, or at least she didn't. So I think she's kind of right up there with Black Widow and Gambit, just somebody who would really like to visit her Alter Ego from time to time. I shouldn't say, not to the point of Black Widow and Gambit. She doesn't have that much to do, but she has things to do that are worth doing. But she definitely wants to be in hero form. She doesn't have a super easy way to pay for it. Which I have found. I mean, Tigs the Multiverse, I suppose, Wilds you could overpay, but you don't really want to do that if you can help it. That would be kind of pointless. Use this to pay for it, just to flip down and shuffle it back in. But I do think she would like a couple trips. Maybe she's like a 2 copy. Maybe you put like 2 Ready for a Fights, but I would consider almost putting 2 Ready for a Fights in every Ghost Spider deck. So I think that qualifies her at least in the middle pile as somebody who would like to use it a little bit, and I think that's a good place for her. Groot is another one that I'm really interested in talking about. I haven't given 2 thoughts to what I think about Groot with this card yet, because Groot is probably my least played hero. He's got to be right up there. I'm not even sure actually who would be the next one. So yeah, Groot is definitely my least played hero. I don't know, we've just never clicked. But part of the reason we've never clicked is because my personal playstyle, I really love Alter Ego. And he's one of the heroes like War Machine and Valkyrie who have such a hard time getting to Alter Ego because they only have 1 thwart. And they have really good reasons to go to Alter Ego. So it's like very frustrating. You want to flip down, but they're really bad at thwarting. He doesn't have an easy access to a thwart event. So, Groot's just not someone I've played a ton. I know you can play him in Justice, but, I did that a few times and then I was good. So I've never really played him in Protection. I'm wondering, would it be good for him? He certainly wants to flip down. You get your 2 growth counters, so you get those right away. It's not resources, but I think that counts as value for sure. So you're spending 2 resources, the Ready for a Fight in the card itself, the cost of it. To flip down, you're going to get 2 growth counters. If you have Fertile Ground, you get a 3rd growth counter, and you get to draw a card. So you're going to get your resource value back for sure, and you're going to get 3 growth counters. As far as wanting to be in the hero form during the villain phase, I don't think he cares. He actually quite likes not getting attacked because he doesn't lose his growth counters, but then, he's so bad at removing threat. He can remove 10 like once per deck pass, but other than that, he has such a hard time managing threat, I think, in solo and certainly in Protection. So I guess I really just don't even want to play him in Protection in solo. But I guess if I were going to, would I include Ready for a Fight? Would I think that was a useful thing? He doesn't have a super easy way to pay for it. He doesn't have any resources or anything. So, you'd want to make sure you build some stuff in for recovery, but he doesn't really need it. My gut is telling me, just I don't really want to play Groot. I don't really want to play him in Protection. If I were to, though, I'm really trying to think this out. Would I think Ready for a Fight would be, I mean, I would definitely want access to it. Okay, that's the thing. If I'm playing Groot in Protection, or if I'm playing Groot at all, I want access to my alter ego. And because you're getting 3 growth counters, and you'd be getting them every single turn if you went all in. I don't know if we're going all in. But even just 3 times per deck pass, getting 3 free growth counters. I'm going to say if I were to play Groot in Protection, which is probably just about the least likely deck for me to play, I would include some Ready for a Fights so that I could flip down and get some growth counters. So that's what we're going to put him in the middle. I'm not excited about it, but I think that's where he goes. Now, Hawkeye, speaking of not being excited, he's not being excited about his alter ego. He has basically no ability to speak of after the first turn. He doesn't have, he doesn't have any alter ego supports or anything. What he has is a bunch of stuff he wants to be doing in hero form, like Mockingbird can defend for him if he's in the villain phase. Now, here's something I hadn't thought of. If he flips down with Ready for a Fight, if he flips into hero, it says when the villain initiates an attack against you, if you were to use Ready for a Fight to flip into hero form, you could then trigger Mockingbird. So she does work, even if you do Ready for a Fight. He does have access to some Confuse, but he doesn't really. The only reason Hawkeye cares about going to alter ego really is there's a good chance he's going to need to heal because, he has 9 hit points and he's not very good at defending himself, though Mockingbird is great if you can get her set up. Like if you get Mockingbird out with a Helicarrier and an Avengers Tower or a Quincarrier and you can just afford to play her every single turn, then that's awesome. And I think that's how you're meant to play Hawkeye, but that's really hard to set up in solo, and especially in solo protection, because it's just hard to, pay for everything when you're also trying not to lose the game. So he just doesn't really care about going to alter ego. He certainly doesn't want to come back into hero form and get attacked. So we're going to say he does not want Ready for a Fight. In his deck, he needs all the cards he has access to otherwise to stay alive. So next up is Hulk. Hulk is one that Nelson has played, and this was a really, really cool game to watch. Hulk is a great candidate for Ready for a Fight. Now, he does have the 4-hand size. He only goes up to 5 in alter ego because for some reason the designers hate Bruce Banner. I don't know why. I think he's awesome. And his alter ego power doesn't even net you a resource. You draw a card and discard a card. So again, Bruce Banner, for as much as Hulk really didn't turn out the way I think many of us would have preferred, I think Bruce Banner is the actual real tragedy here. No offense to anyone who had a hand in making the Hulk, but for my personal taste, I love the Bruce Banner character. I would have loved to have seen him be a little stronger. So you're only getting 1 card back, not 2, even though you have 4-hand size, but it only goes up to 5. You're not getting any actual value out of your alter ego power, though maybe some consistency. He can easily pay for it, though, because he has a ton of punch resources in his deck. And what he has is Banner's Laboratory. And what Nelson did, and I meant to have the card. Let me see if I can find it quickly. What Nelson did. Oh, where did I put it? Sorry, I had to stack. Yes. Dr. Sinclair seems just... I can't take credit for this. I want to make sure I'm giving Nelson the credit. He thought of this. Or at least that's where I saw it. These cards are just a match made in heaven because Dr. Sinclair is an alter ego action. You can exhaust her and spend a mental resource, which Banner's Laboratory gives you access to. And you get to heal damage from your alter ego equal to your recovery. His recovery is 4. This bumps it to a 6. Like these cards just... this should have been the dark green of Hulk because this is Hulk's 16th card. This card is just awesome for Hulk. So you could, if you're in hero form, you take a hit from the villain. Next turn, you flip down. You get to heal for 6 for, basically just exhausting these 2 cards. And then you jump right back in and get attacked again during the villain phase. What this does for Hulk is, to a less degree than it did for Black Widow for me, is that it fixes... Well, for Black Widow, it completely fixed Black Widow for me. For Hulk, what it does is it kind of fixes my biggest issue with Hulk. And it's not even that he's not that good or, he's not as strong as we want him to be or he doesn't play like I want him to. It's that he doesn't really have a gimmick. Hulk doesn't really have anything that's special just to Hulk. He doesn't have any special type of cards that only he can use or anything like that. But what Hulk does have that's special for him is he has 18 hit points. It's the one thing that really sets Hulk apart. Is he has the most health pretty much by far. She-Hulk comes close, but but that doesn't, you haven't really been able to maximize that. Like a lot of heroes can still be tanky. You don't need 18 health to be tanky, but the fact that he has 18 health and then he can just heal for 6 every turn, now you're starting to feel like a hero that kind of has something special about him. So for me, that alone makes like ready for a fight. I'm gonna put Dr. Sinclair right there with him. She's just gonna live in my Hulk kit, I think. That right there is just so good. That makes Hulk interesting in a way that I don't think he's ever been interesting before. So I think that's worth 3 ready for a fights and 3 practice plans. Oh, and the other thing I didn't talk about real quick is that Hulk's not sleeved. I don't know why I don't have a missed sleeve. Anyway, you know, if you flip down at the end of the turn, you get to avoid the enraged ability. Where, you know, sometimes if you draw like say 2 Hulk smashes in your hand, or you have a Hulk smash but you didn't get to play it for whatever reason, and then, you know, literally anything happened to him, he got exhausted, discard a card, whatever, you get it. If you flip down with ready for a fight, you get to hold that card till the next turn. So that's another nice thing. So that's where it's a really good card for Hulk. I think sometimes you wonder if some heroes were in mind when they designed cards. It feels like obviously Black Widow, but I wonder if Hulk was kind of in mind too. Any card that makes Hulk more fun to play obviously is good for everyone, I think. But the Dr. Sinclair thing is just special. So I think he's great for the card. Next up is Iceman. And I like Iceman. He isn't one of my favorite heroes, but I think he's fun. Sorry, I'm way off camera here. And what he has is a really interesting ability, similar to a lot of the mutants have this ability for some reason, or at least a few did, where you flip down and you get to shuffle cards back into your deck, which I do like that concept for the mutants because, you know, their superpowers are so much a part of who they are. You know, so many Marvel heroes are regular people that, you know, are basically science experiments, whereas the mutants feel more like DC superheroes where they're just super powered. They just have powers for, you know, whatever reason, though they're all aliens or mythological figures. But here we're mutants, and their superpowers are so much a part of who they are. I think that's why so many of them got this idea that you shuffle their cards back into their deck, because they just have access, you know, they should have more access to their abilities because they're just so much a part of who they are. Anyway, so his ability is he could shuffle ice cards back in, and it's based on the number of frostbites in play. So if you have 2, 3, 4, 5, all 6 frostbites out, you can shuffle that many of his ice cards back into his deck. And you want them to be, oh, I didn't grab his belt. I don't know why I didn't grab his belt, but his belt works better if you draw an ice card, is the short version of how that card works. And so you want, you know, shuffling the ice cards back into his deck is really good because then his belt works better. And so you want to get a lot of frostbites out, and then you want to go to Alter Ego and shuffle cards back in. But he's very bad at thwarting. He only has a 1 thwart. Now, he does have 3 copies of his thwart event, and it's a really good card. And so you could flip down and shuffle those back in, which is really good. He already has pretty good access to his Alter Ego with cards like Frozen Solid, and the fact that frostbites reduce the villain scheme. So it's actually pretty easy for Bobby to flip down. So he doesn't really need ready for a fight necessarily, but it certainly helps. Now, you will lose your Ice Slide. So it definitely is a non-bow with the Ice Slide, a non-combo. If you're playing ready for a fight, you're probably just not going to bother to play the Ice Slide because you're going to constantly be shuffling it back into your deck. As far as do I think he actually wants that card? He's so good in protection already. But certainly getting a little bit more access to, I think maybe like 1 or 2 copies. I don't know if he even needs a full 3. Now, he certainly doesn't need practice plans. Now he's a mutant, you could do Moira, you could do, you know, Cerebro, all that stuff. I'm going to say he's kind of right in the middle, maybe even the lower side of the middle. It's certainly something I would try. I like Iceman and Protection, but I don't think he's necessarily in love with the card. Now, someone I think that might be is Ironheart. Now, I don't know why I grabbed all 3 versions of her when I grabbed her, but she quite likes her Alter Ego because she can purchase or buy like progress counters with resources. And she wants progress counters. They're very good for helping her to level up into her 3 suits. I guess I felt the need to physically demonstrate that she was going to have. She can keep changing her form. And she has her Alter Ego support, which is really, really good, that she can get more progress counters or heal. But as far as I'm concerned, this just gives you progress counters. Now, the nice thing about going to Alter Ego with Ironheart is you get a counter on the way down and a counter on the way back up. So you're not getting the full value with the Ready for a Fight. And you might not always have resources to also buy one with the Alter Ego ability, though you could do it literally every turn. She doesn't necessarily care about being in hero form during the villain phase. She's got a really good defense, but if you're playing Ironheart and Protection, there's a good chance you'd rather be thwarting with her, especially when you've leveled up to get your 2 thwart, your 3 thwart. So she really loves mental resources, so the physical resource isn't necessarily the easiest thing to come by. And she doesn't need alter ego access to play Moon Girl. She's the one person that can play in both forms, so that's not really a consideration either. You know, I think in my head I thought she was going to like it more than I'm now thinking that she does. I think she would rather just play Professor X and, you know, try to find other ways to get to alter ego whenever possible. I don't know. It may be worth 1 or 2 copies, but I'm not very excited about it. I feel like maybe I'm missing something with her, because in my head I thought I was excited about Ironheart, but now I'm less excited. So Iron Man is another weird one, because in hero form he can get up to hand size of 7. So once you get to a certain point with Iron Man, you don't necessarily care about going to alter ego, because you're drawing less cards, which is weird. Now, you're not really, because the Futurist is going to give you that 7th card, right? Because you're going to have 6, and you get 1 more. But as far as Ready for a Fight's concerned, let's see. So you would flip down and get 6 cards, and you'd be starting your turn with fewer cards with Ready for a Fight. Whereas if you stayed in hero form, yeah, you could start with 7 later in the game. Now, what Ready for a Fight could be doing for Iron Man is giving him access to his alter ego earlier in the game. You know, you certainly don't start with that 7-card hand size. It takes a while to build up to it. Would Ready for a Fight help him do that? He has the Stark Tower with alter ego action, giving him access to getting text back, which is good. Sometimes you have to discard them for various reasons. So we definitely like going to alter ego. Tony would prefer to just stay in alter ego, I think, most of the time. But you could flip into hero form and get attacked, and then you would flip back down, draw your bigger hand size early in the game. Now, the downside, though, is if you only have like a 3 or 4 card hand size and you're trying to get built up, you don't want to be spending resources on Ready for a Fight. You don't even really want to be drawing those. You just want to be drawing tech. His protection deck is already so bursting full with good cards. Yeah, I don't think Tony likes this card very much. I think he is just better off running the way he normally does, because it's just hard for him to... I just don't think he could even really afford to pay for it when he would want it. And then when he can't afford it, he wouldn't want it anymore. So that's where we're going with Iron Man. So we're moving along here, and I guess it's not fair. I'm just putting the whole pile of cards in each stack. It's not just the hero cards, so this is not an accurate depiction of the height. They're all pretty even, but it doesn't matter because each one's like 4 or 5 cards. So I think it's been a pretty even spread. There hasn't been as many that love it, but there's been a decent that really like it, and a few that don't, and that's fine. I think, you know, it's a good card that isn't necessarily for everyone, but I do think it's for a lot of heroes. Moving on to Jubilee, not one of my favorite heroes, I wouldn't say. She's fine. Her alter ego action lets you search for the shopping spree, which is just kind of more work than it's worth, certainly in solo. I'm sure there's some fun things you can do with it in multiplayer, but it's not really worth putting the effort into, I don't think, in solo, just to play her glasses and her jacket and, you know, maybe a cell phone or something. Maybe there's a couple other items in protection, but either way, that's not that exciting. She has super good access to alter ego with Confuse, you know, Steady and Stalwart and all that, I know. But for the most part, most villains, she has a good access to her alter ego if she really wanted it already. She could easily pay for it with her wild resource generator, but she doesn't really want to be getting attacked. I think she likes to go to alter ego. She likes to not be getting hit. She can stun a lot, so that part's nice. Yeah, I don't think Jubilee really needs it. There's just so much other cool stuff she can do that we're going to say she is not all that ready for a fight. Magic, I have a feeling Magic's going to be a little bit better. Now, what's her alter ego? I haven't played Magic in a while. I really, really like Magic, but I haven't played her in a minute. When you change to hero form, so when you change to hero form, you get to choose a spell in your discard pile and put it on top of your deck. So it's not giving you a resource. You know, you would get 1 back with the hand size, but you would be jumping into the villain phase by putting a card on top of your deck. And, I should have grabbed a Limbo. I'm not sure how Limbo would interact with Ready for a Fight. And I don't want to dig it out now during the video. But, yeah, that would be interesting if you could also use... Because Limbo is when the villain phase starts, right? But does it work in Alter Ego? I don't think it does. So, unless I'm wrong, I think you might be missing out on Limbo here. But you would get to put a spell on top of your discard pile right at the beginning when the villain would attack you, which could be really good for Magic Barrier. You could easily get a Magic Barrier back to play it then immediately, which would be nice. She does have access to Confuse, so she doesn't necessarily need it, but a little bit more might be nice. She doesn't have, unless I just missed it, I don't think she has an Alter Ego support. And she does like being in villain hero form during the villain phase because you can just play Colossus, which is really cool. And you can play him off the top of your deck too if he happens to be there, which is really nice. So, you know, she loves Moira. You know, she's one I'm curious for. I haven't played Magic in so long. Honestly, I'm having a hard time remembering the whole flow of it. And I think, you know what, give me 1 second. I am going to dig out Limbo because I think that's a key in figuring out if this works or not. All right, I got the rest of Magic's cards. So Limbo. After the villain phase begins, exhaust Limbo, swap a card in your hand with the top of your deck. Exhaust Limbo, swap a card. Okay, so this does work if you're in alter ego form. So it's the villain phase would begin. You would swap a card in your hand with the top of your deck. And then the villain would scheme. And then you would jump into hero form. And then you would put a spell on top of your deck, covering up the one that you just put there. Yeah, I don't know. That's kind of... I'm having... Honestly, this is one I would actually kind of have to play. Yeah, I just keep these in here. They're just... That's so good for her. And then, yeah, she doesn't have an alter ego support, right? You know, this is one I want to try because I'm having a really hard time visualizing how this would even work for Magic. So I'm just going to put her in the maybe pile, or in the kind of pile, because I know for me personally, I'm just curious to see how well that works because I'm having a really hard time mapping it out in my head. So we're going to put her in the middle. Magneto is another one I've seen played. Nelson played at Magneto. He played quite a few of these decks. I was loving it because it's nice to see other people loving this card. And it was working really well because he's another one. When he changes into Alter Ego, you get to shuffle cards back in. Now he gets the top 3 cards, so he has a slightly different way of doing it. But he gets 3 cards back, and then his Asteroid M support allows him to get another one back, so he basically gets 4 cards back with every trip down, and he's one of those that it doesn't matter if he starts in Alter Ego, he's already triggered this ability, though he could use this a second time if he had stayed down the whole time. The only reason he cares that much about being in hero form during the villain phase is the magnetic bubble. It gives him retaliate, so it's not that big of he's not missing out on anything by staying in Alter Ego, is my point. There's a really good chance he would just skip right past all the ready for fights. Like, it's definitely not something that would be could be crucial to his deck strategy. I don't think you can put anything in Magneto that's too crucial to your deck strategy because he discards so many cards that he's really mostly just playing his cards. Though Nelson definitely made it work, and he had the 3 Mutant Educations and the X-Mansion as well, so he was just shuffling everything back in, which if nothing else is a fun theme. Obviously it's something he wants to be doing because it's built into his character, and then Ready for a Fight just allows him to do that every single turn. So having seen it work and it looked really fun, I don't know that I would include the practice plans, though that makes it more consistent with Magneto's. I think it's worth including just in general, even if it's not like the main thing you're trying to do, just because he has really good cards, and being able to get them back is worth including the Ready for a Fights. So I'm going to put him in the middle pile. I think it's worth it for him. All right, Maria Hill. If Groot is the least hero I've played the most, let me say that. Let me try to say that again. If Groot is the hero I have played the least, out of all of them, Maria is the one I've played the least of the newer, the most recent wave. I have not gotten to play Maria a ton, so this is definitely going to be sort of off the top of my head. She definitely likes being in Alter Ego. She's really good at staying in Alter Ego. And if you flipped it down with Ready for a Fight, you could search for shield support. You'd have a hard time paying for it, though, because you didn't draw the bigger hand size. You know, it's kind of nice starting in Alter Ego. You have 6 cards. You go get a 7th one, then you can definitely afford, say, the Pericles, for example, which also gives her really good access to Confuse if you want to use it. The only reason she cares about being in hero form is Life Model Decoy, so, you know, not that big of a deal. She not looking to get attacked. Her hero form is good, so she wants to flip back and forth. I think she can easily pay for it with support staff. I think Maria has got so much going on with all the shield supports that I don't think she needs to be doing anything as tricky as Ready for a Fight, bouncing back and forth. I don't think she really has the room in her deck for it. So we're going to say she's one that is not interested in Ready for a Fight. When I'm done, I'm going to go through and actually sort out all the hero cards because I want to see, you know what, I'm going to do it right now. Okay, so far there are 13 that don't care at all, 10 that are interested in having at least some, and 6 that love it. So far, and we're about halfway there, more that don't, but what did I say, 6 and 10, 16 that like it at least some. So we're going to say that that's still a good ratio. All right, the last one of the first half is Ms. Marvel, and Ms. Marvel is one that I would have thought would love this card because she loves her alter ego, but the more I did end up putting some thought into this one because this was one I was going to try. And then in the end, I decided not to bother because, yeah, she loves her alter ego. She gets a card off of Teen Spirit. She's got 3 supports she can use in alter ego. But the thing is, you know, she doesn't want to be an alter ego at the end of her turn. She wants to be an alter ego at the beginning of her turn. You know, she can start her hero turn with like 2 or 3 extra cards in her hand. But if she flips down and uses a mirror to put a card back in and then draw a card, and she uses Teen Spirit to draw a card, those are probably going to be events that she can't play. And so she's not really going to get a lot of value out of that. And the only reason she cares about being in hero form is wiggle room. So she doesn't mind trying to find some confuse or just other ways to avoid being attacked. So she's not missing out by not being in hero form. She doesn't have an easy way to pay for it. Her resource generator is wild, but only for events. So in the end, I thought oh yeah, she loves alter ego. She's going to want it, but she wants to be an alter ego at the beginning of her turn, not the end. So not as good of a candidate as I thought she would be. I will tell you, if you could see off camera, the worst part about making videos like this is just the giant stacks of cards I have to put away later. It's so disorganized. Starting up what I think is about the second half of the heroes is Nebula. I was actually having a conversation on Discord today, the Living Card Games Discord. You should join if you haven't, about whether or not Nebula would be good for this. And I do. I think she would be very, very good for this. Oh, sorry. Hi, buddy. You okay? Just waking up? Yeah. Come on down. Okay, folks, jumping back into this. Apologies if anything looks or sounds slightly different. I had to postpone the rest of this video until the next day. The nap time was over for the kids, so jumping back into it now, and tried to recreate the shot as accurately as I could, so hopefully it looks about the same as where we just left off. Still can't seem to fix the glare over here. Sorry about that. But I believe we were getting started up with Nebula, and I was saying that I was just having a conversation online about this, and I think she would be really good. Now, obviously, Nebula wants to be going to Alter Ego as often as possible because she gets to draw 2 cards off of her technique. So, you know, similar to Black Widow in a lot of ways, but, you know, that's double good compared to what Black Widow gets, which is nice. So it's not as easy for her to recycle them. And then the fun thing about Nebula, and the weird thing, is the timing of her, the way she works. You know, you play all these techniques that I guess I grabbed all of them for my demonstration here. And then when you flip up to hero form, nothing happens. You take your turn. Then the next turn, when your turn starts, if you're in hero form, all of your techniques that are in play will trigger. And so the way that she would interact with Ready for a Fight, I guess, is, you know, you would flip down at the end of your turn, you know, play a technique, draw a couple cards, hopefully be able to use all your resources. So you're definitely getting the resources back as far as the cost of Ready for a Fight. You're going to get the +1 hand size plus 2 cards for playing a technique, hopefully. She doesn't have any other alter ego supports, but, you know, you're getting the 2 cards, so that's worth it. And then when you jump in, when the villain goes to scheme, you would then change to hero form with Ready for a Fight, and then you would do the villain phase, and then at the beginning of your next hero turn, which would happen pretty much immediately, is when these would trigger. So usually these kind of have a 1-turn delay, but in a way, I think these would actually trigger a little faster, so maybe you would have slightly more control with Nebula. It's hard to say. She's probably the one I want to play next. I want to try her. But I think it would definitely be something she would like. You know, she has a little bit of, did I grab it? Well, she has a little bit of Confuse in her deck, and then Professor X, and that's pretty much it for protection. So Lethal Intent is a card I grabbed and put in this pile. I don't remember. Like I said earlier in the video, I built my big old stacks of cards like a week ago when I was going to build a video, and then I never got to it until now. And I don't remember what my thought process was at the time, but I think Lethal Intent would probably be somewhat tricky to trigger because, you know, they're going to fire a little bit more quickly. Combat Ready, you'll definitely have more access to this because you're getting to flip down a lot more often with Ready for a Fight, so you should easily be able to use these to shuffle your cards back in. Nebula's Ship has a wild resource, so you can easily pay for it. Oh yeah, and then here's her Confuse that she has access to. So I think Nebula is definitely a good. We're putting her in the very Ready for a Fight glary pile over here, where she definitely wants to try this card out, and I do think it'll be the next deck that I try because I'm really excited about it. I like Nebula a lot. And yeah, so next up is Nick Fury along with Maria. Haven't played a ton. I played the heck out of Shuri and Silk already. And they came out after these guys, but when the box came out, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and Maria and Nick, I wasn't playing a ton at the time, and so didn't get a chance to try these guys out. And by the time I really dug into Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., Silk and Shuri came out, and those are the ones I've been playing a lot. So similar to my Maria thoughts, my Nick thoughts are very, you know, half-baked, and I haven't played them a lot, but the experience I did have with Nick is I was less interested in going to Alter Ego with him. I found just because if, you know, I'm in stealth suit a lot, which I want to be because that's kind of how Nick works. So I was trying to play with the stealth suit as much as I could. You know, I'm already getting schemed on a ton. So, but you get benefits from it. You know, you get to steal one other threat and such. And so going to Alter Ego just felt like a less good version of that. So I wasn't that excited about going to Alter Ego with him. Now, as far as whether or not he wants to be in hero form during the villain phase, looks like Intelligence Analysis works in hero or alter ego, so you don't need to be in hero form for that. Though Secret Agent does need to be in hero form, though you do that during your turn. Oh, but this triggers off, that's why I put this here, it triggers off preparation. So he does have some sort of built-in synergy with Ready for a Fight and Practice Plan because he has, he has these preparations. And so you already are inclined to include Practice Plan. Certainly Intelligence Analysis is just very, very good. And so recycling that is excellent. And Secret Agent is works with the preparations too. So you definitely want to be doing that. So I think Ready for a Fight has some natural synergy with him. Being in Alter Ego, he can heal or get a threat. A threat is kind of like a resource. I didn't grab his watch. He does have a resource generator, but it only produces mentals. So it doesn't help him pay for it. So he's not super good at paying for the Ready for a Fight, but, you know, you can get around that. Definitely, I'm trying to decide. I guess I'm just not that excited about it on the surface, at least, where I feel like he wants to be flipping down. Like, I'm just not sure what benefit he's getting the slightly bigger hand size. I suppose it would be a way to get back into stealth suit form. So if you wanted to flip into assault frequently and have access to stealth, that would be Ready for a Fight would sort of be another way to do that. So yeah, actually maybe that would be a fun way to play. I'm going to put him in the wants to try it sort of, or, you know, maybe has I think he's going to have practice plans in his deck, but I don't think they're there for the Ready for a Fight necessarily. So I'm not going to put him in this pile over here where he's really raring to use it. But I think you could throw a couple in there and probably get some use out of it. So I think it's more that situation, kind of like who was I talking about? I think it's like Magneto or, you know, Doctor Strange can just get some use out of it. You don't need a ton of it. But just having a couple in your deck, you're going to find uses for it. So it's worthwhile. So, and I think that's, you know, perfectly fine. It doesn't have to be the whole point of your deck. Next up, we have Nightcrawler. The last wave was weird for me. So we had Iceman and Jubilee, and I liked them both just okay. And then we got Nightcrawler and Magneto, and I ended up liking both just okay too. So the last wave wasn't among my favorites, I would say. So I haven't played a ton of Nightcrawler. I played him a good amount. I was excited for him. I was really excited for him. And then I ended up just being kind of middling on him. But let's look at his alter ego. I'm kind of throwing my thoughts out on the heroes because I haven't talked about obviously anything in a very long time. And so the newer heroes, I'm kind of quickly sharing my impressions of them. Even though it is not the point of this video. So you can flip down a Stitcher deck for a copy of BAMF. That's really good. Obviously, if they're still in the deck, though, he can get them out of the discard pile pretty easily too. So it's certainly not necessary. He does have the Chapel, which is going to help him recover, though I've always thought this was kind of a weird card because he's so good at defending, and the whole thing with BAMF is he's likely going to be defending a lot, preventing 3 or more damage. So I don't feel like he's going to need to recover a ton, at least not in solo. Maybe in multiplayer, if he's defending for multiple heroes, he's going to be taking a lot of damage. I'm not sure. But, you know, the chapel wants you to be recovering, and then you do get to draw a card. So you would hypothetically, there's your 2-card resources back for covering the cost of Ready for a Fight. He already kind of has access to Alter Ego with Port Away. He only has 1 copy. He certainly wants to be defending. I guess that's why. I'm not sure why, but it's so funny. I had this whole video planned like a week ago. I know I keep saying this, but... And now I don't remember what I put all the cards here for, other than to say, I think I was just highlighting he has Retaliate, so he has reasons to want to be in hero form during the villain phase. I mean, obviously he does. He wants to be defending. If you're playing him in protection, you're going to be getting all kinds of benefits for defending, so he definitely is one who wants to be in hero form, so he gets that benefit. I think the big question for Kurt is less about, does he want to be in hero form during the villain phase? Certainly he does. Does he really care about getting to Alter Ego a lot? And I think if you were playing a version with like Mutant Educations where you were shuffling the BAMFs back in, then you would have very easy access to pulling one out, and then you could just throw it on the villain or another enemy and then jump right out. So that could maybe add some consistency, though I think what Kurt really needs is more damage. So I think maybe less Ready for a Fight. The other new card that came with Silk, Stop Hitting Yourself, might actually be the better fit for Nightcrawler. This one's hard for me to judge just because I'm not that excited about playing Nightcrawler, so I'm having a hard time thinking about how I would even build this deck. But I think he's just not that fussed about getting to Alter Ego. And then he, you know, if he really wants to, he's got the Port Away. His Alter Ego support is not that exciting to me. So I'm actually going to put him in the pile over here. Now I feel like I could very well be way off on this one. Not really experienced with him. So please tell me in the comments if you think that Nightcrawler would actually be a super good target for Ready for a Fight. But for whatever reason, I'm not really feeling it. He also doesn't have any particular resource. Well, he has the X-Jet, I guess, could help pay for it. But he needs as much help paying for things. That's the other thing. Hold on, I'm jumping back into Nightcrawler. Is the thing I didn't love about Nightcrawler is he's kind of got a wonky economy. You know, you have to discard a card to get BAMF back in your hand, so it's you almost have like a 4-card hand size because you're wanting to do that just about every turn. So he already isn't overflowing with resources. He does have a resource generator for events, but it doesn't help here. So I think the last thing I want to be doing is burdening him with trying to make this combo happen with Ready for a Fight and stuff. So yeah, I'm going to say that's not something he's really interested in doing. Go from a hero I don't like that much to one of my absolute favorites. Nova is a top 5 hero for me. Love him to pieces. Now, as far as his Alter Ego is concerned, he doesn't really have one. Once you get this the Supernova helmet out, you know, this does really nothing for you anymore. So he doesn't get anything from this, but he does have Jesse Alexander, which is a really, really good Alter Ego support. It's allowing you to shuffle the connection to the World Mines back into your deck. This is such a cool card. It's basically a totally free resource in your hand if you draw it during your hand size. And it has a wild, making, you know, Ready for a Fight is very easy for Sam to pay for with Supernova Helmet and things like this with wilds. He has definitely access to punch resources. And I think Jesse Alexander is worth accessing. I don't know how many times you need to do it per deck pass. He only has 2 connection to the World Mines in the deck, so you could hypothetically, I guess, if you got lucky, you could keep shuffling them back in over and over again if you kept seeing them. So theoretically, it really might be worthwhile flipping down, and you do get to draw a card. So there is the your 2-cost differential there. You are recovering that, so that's not a problem. And then as far as reasons for wanting to be in the hero phase during the villain phase, like can Sam just stay flipped down? He has Force Field Projection, which is a pretty good card, but it's not something that's like, oh, I got to be in hero phase so I can play my Force Field Projection. Like, it doesn't really matter that much. So as much as I do think Sam wants to be flipping to Alter Ego fairly occasionally, but he's not looking to necessarily take a bunch of hits from the villain because he's a little bit squishy and he just has a couple copies of this. Though, so in protection, at least for me, I'm not usually playing a version of Nova that defends itself a lot. He wants to be readying with what doesn't kill me and Ever Vigilance and things like that to be triggering a lot and getting a lot of uses out of the helmet. But as far as defending for himself, I would probably mostly be using chump blockers. And so staying in Alter Ego is not a bad proposition for him, other than the fact that it's protection and he has no confuse. So I'm just kind of thinking out loud here. I'm going to say he definitely wouldn't mind a couple copies. I don't think this is a huge thing for him, but I definitely think that this is a card that could improve his protection build So not to the point where you would include practice plans to keep doing it over and over and over. But I think he does fall in the good pile. I think he could just throw a couple in there and you would play them and you would use them and you would be happy they were there. Phoenix is, for some reason I got it in my head that I really, really wanted to try Phoenix with Ready for a Fight. And the reason was I was playing Daring Lime's Leadership Phoenix deck last week and I was just having so much fun with it. And Phoenix is kind of in the middle for me as far as heroes go. But whenever I play Phoenix, I always end up having a good time with her, though I definitely have some issues with her that keeps her from being one of my favorites. But I do like her, and I was having a lot of fun with that deck, but I was also really on this Ready for a Fight kick. So I was like, I'm just going to build Phoenix with Ready for a Fight. It'll be great. She's an X-Man, so she's a mutant, and she has all access to all that stuff, and she works really well with Cerebro. So that was my thinking, and I don't think it worked at all. I just really could not get the deck off the ground, and that was where I was talking about earlier, I think with Colossus, where I was saying, you know, it's easy to say, oh, cool, go to Alter Ego and use all your mutant supports, but you got to pay for those. You got to play those, and when you're playing those, you're not playing other things, and you're playing protection in solo, so you're already fighting for your life. So you don't have time to play, 18 mutant supports, and this is where I learned that lesson, is if I could get Cerebro on the table, like early on, first couple turns, and then I was using Ready for a Fight, flip down, I was getting use out of it, but she doesn't have, she just has a lot that she's trying to do. She's really good at thwarting, which is really nice for protection. So, you can stay alive pretty well that way. She can pay for it with, I didn't grab it, I guess. But, her whole thing with the Phoenix Force is, you have a wild resource to use every turn, at least until they're gone. So she could easily pay for it. But she doesn't, the big thing with her is she doesn't have really any benefit from being an Alter Ego. That's kind of the main thing I wanted to talk about here. Is if you do exhaust to recover with her, you do get a power counter back, so it's kind of like getting a resource to go along with your slightly bigger hand size, so you can in a roundabout way get the 2 costs back for Ready for a Fight. But then White Hot Room also only either gives you a counter or heals you a little bit, and so she wasn't really getting the economy for flipping down unless I was able to get Cerebro down and maybe some of the other mutant supports like X-Bunker to help draw extra cards, but I wasn't finding that I had the time to do that. She does have access to Confuse if she wants to flip down, if you get Unleashed, and at least the way I play Phoenix, I tend to get Unleashed fairly early in the game. Like 3rd or 4th turn, I thwart a few times, make sure the board's under control, and then she's just not very fun if she's not Unleashed, in my opinion. So then she does have access to Confuse, so if she really wants to flip down, she can. She doesn't really have any good reason to be in in hero form during the villain phase, so she's not that excited about flipping back up, other than she does get Retaliate if she's Unleashed. That's a very minor reason. And if you do happen to play Mental Paralysis, which I never do, you lose it if you flip down with Ready for a Fight. So all in all, my experience, I could have just said I played her and it didn't work, but I gave you all of my thoughts on it, I guess. But yeah, for me, it just didn't really work out. Now, one I think would be very interesting is the other Psionic hero that happens to be next in the alphabet, or the other main Psionic hero, I guess, Psylocke, who very much wants to be going to Alter Ego a lot, but as Heroic Skeleton put it on Discord, it made me laugh out loud, literally. If Psylocke so much as sneezes, the villain ends up getting confused. And Confuse works very weirdly with Ready for a Fight. I talked about earlier where you can't even trigger Ready for a Fight if you're confused, or if the villain's confused. So, if she's confusing the villain constantly, she can't use Ready for a Fight. And she certainly has reasons to want to go to Alter Ego a lot. She can shuffle cards back in. I guess that was the main thing. Oh, and the training regimen works better if you're an Alter Ego. And she has lots of good reasons to want to be in hero form during the villain phase. She has an excellent treachery cancel and a good defense card. And so as far as the flow of the way Psylocke plays, wanting to flip down and then be up in hero form during the villain phase, I think works perfectly. The problem is she has so much Confuse that she just doesn't need it most of the time. Now, I think against a steady or stalwart villain, I think Ready for a Fight is excellent tech for Psylocke to still work as well. And she works fine against steady or stalwart. Those certainly don't shut her down. But Ready for a Fight would make things a little bit better for her, I think. And another thing I thought of, she has these Psykatanas that can pay. They generate a fist resource, so you could easily pay for Ready for a Fight. I would have to try this. I don't know, but the one thing I was thinking is I wonder if there's a world where you just play her where the Psykatanas are up most of the time, and So you're not actually confusing the villain very much, because if you just keep your Psychotanas up, things like Flurry of Blades just deals more damage, and Sonic Redirect just deals more damage. It doesn't confuse. So you're just less likely to confuse the villain, and you'll just basically be a very aggressive version of Psylocke. And so you could be playing a very aggressive version in Protection, which you can certainly do. She can ready a lot and attack for 3 if you have both Katanas up. And then since you're not confusing, you use Ready for a Fight to flip down to do all your cool stuff. And so I think that could be a fun way to play. So, but she definitely doesn't need 3 copies of Ready for a Fight and the 3 practice plans, because that's just more than she's going to get any use out of. But I think she's worth putting in the good pile, because she fits the profile, wants to be an alter ego, but also wants to be in hero form during the villain phase. And it helps her a lot in Steady and Stalwart. And I like the idea of the all Psychotana deck. So I'm going to put her there just because I'm planning on trying it. And then we'll see. We'll see how it goes. Next up is Quicksilver. And we know right away that Quicksilver can easily pay for Ready for a Fight. He has so many punch resources that he often doesn't even know what to do with them all. And then he has a great alter ego ability where he can discard 2 cards and draw 2 cards. And if you happen to have Wanda on the table, then you actually get to draw 3 cards. So it's, at the very least, it's good card filtering. So you might not be netting a resource, but you are fixing your hand. And if you're flipping down at the end of your turn, you might need to fix your hand if you don't have anything you can play in alter ego. Or if you draw anything, you could draw something that you could play, like an ally or another one of his many upgrades. So I think you could easily get back the resource cost by drawing this card, especially if you get Wanda. I certainly try to get Wanda out when I can, because it is so nice getting the 3 cards. That's a really cool power. He likes being an alter ego for Servo Industries to get Ready for a Fight and Maximum Velocity back. You want to keep those cycling. And so if you were flipping down every single turn, oh yeah, I guess that's probably why I put that there. If you're flipping down every turn at the end of your hero turn and using this to shuffle those cards back in, that's going to make Quicksilver very, very consistent. And then he does want to be in hero form, or at least he doesn't mind, because he can basically defend for free, because you can ready, during the villain phase 2 after he defends. So he gets that free defense. If you can get this out, he's defending for at least 2. Maximum Velocity does boost his defense throughout the hero phase, though I wonder, I don't know about this, but if you flip down with this in play and then flip back up, are you still getting the defense bonus? I'd like to think yes. It would certainly be better for Ready for a Fight if you do, but I actually don't know. Let me know in the comments if you know. If he changes to alter ego, is this, I feel like this is just in effect until the end of the round, regardless of whether or not he flips up and down. So that shouldn't be a problem, but I don't know for sure. I don't think we've ever really encountered that. At least I've never thought about it. So, but hypothetically, you're flipping out at the end of your turn. You're shuffling in Always Be Ready and a Maximum Velocity, or whatever, but usually those 2. And then you flip back up, and you're drawing those cards so much more consistently. He can certainly afford it. I think he's a great target, even if this trick doesn't work as well. It'd be nice if it did, though. But yeah, I think Quicksilver is definitely one that I think would be worth putting in 3 Ready for a Fights and 2 or 3 practice plans. Just he's going to get a lot of extra consistency out of that, and that really helps. Now the downside, if I'm going to keep talking about it, I'm going to hold on to him. The downside, Quicksilver and solo, probably in Protection even more, is he's pretty slow, ironically. And so maybe the last thing he needs is yet another thing to set up. But he's going to be slow either way, really. So I don't know how much that's going to slow him down even more. So I still think it's worth it. I do think, though, in practice, that you could find that maybe it's just a little too slow for it to be worth doing. Now, Rocket Raccoon I have here all by himself. I didn't grab him any cards to talk about along with him, so I guess there's not a lot to say here. He does have a really good alter ego. He likes to flip down and discard the tech upgrade. His tech upgrades don't get discarded because they don't have the uses keyword. And so you can flip down and discard 1 to draw 2 cards. Is a really nice way to use up those battery packs or like empty pistols and such. So he likes going to alter ego, but the thing about Rocket Raccoon is he doesn't like being in hero form. During the villain phase, he has no interest whatsoever. He has no defense cards. He has no interaction with the encounter deck at all during the hero phase. He is perfectly happy to flip to alter ego and stay there. Now, of course, he needs to be able to survive, and that's kind of the whole point. I've been talking a lot about Protection and solo and not losing the game, but he is a really, really good thwarter. and that he can get his base thwart up to 3 just in kit, plus his thwart event can help you remove a ton of threat. So he's really good at thwarting back down if you don't, as long as you don't lose the scheme. So if there's somebody I'm going to be flipping with in protection, Rocket is one of them, and you could build in a Professor X and whatever else you need to do to try to make it. But yeah, Rocket has so little going on in Alter Ego other than the tech thing. Now, he probably would like access to his recovery, maybe a downtime. If I was going to play him, I would certainly put a downtime in and just be recovering with him a lot. But, you're going to want to be exhausting to thwart, so I don't know how often he's going to be ready to recover. So I'm going to put him over here. I don't find a lot that's exciting for him to do in Alter Ego other than discarding that card and drawing 2, and that's great. But you're basically just sort of paying 2 extra resources to then flip down and draw those cards back. So I don't think it's ultimately worth it. Rogue is up next, a hero I quite like, though I haven't played her in a really long time. Now, my memory of Rogue is that she doesn't have anything going on in Alter Ego. Yeah, when she flips down, you actually would lose touch. So it would be actually kind of a weird negative, where if you put touched on something and then you flipped down, with the whole ready for a fight sequence, then touch would come off whatever you put it on, and then when you flip back up, you wouldn't be able to use one of her best cards, if not her best card, Bulletproof Bell. So it's sort of actively working against her in that way. She does have access to Confuse, and actually has really good access because she can use Superpower Adaptation to recycle this if you get it all set up right. So if she wanted to be going to Alter Ego, she really could, but I feel like she has very little reason to do. She's got really good defensive capabilities, so she doesn't need to recover very often, so that part of it's off the table. She doesn't really gain any resources for flipping down. She has no support. She has no ability. You could put in X-Men supports, but yeah, I think we can just quickly say that Rogue is, I think, pretty ready for a fight in real life. In real life. But not so much in the game. She just wants to stay in hero form and keep doing hero-y rogue things. Scarlet Witch, however, is a hero that I flip with a lot when I play her. One of my absolute favorites to this day, though it's been a minute. She has the same Alter Ego power as Quicksilver, so discard 2 cards and then draw 2 cards, and then if you happen to have Quicksilver in play, she gets drawn extra. I find when I play her, sometimes Quicksilver is not on the table as often. He's 4 cost, though you can use Chaos Magic to pay for him, but I'm usually using that to pay for other things. So I don't always have Quicksilver in play, but again, that card filtering is going to be nice if you're going to be flipping down at the end of your turn. She does have Agatha, which is a really nice way to add in more cards, and the fact that it's card filtering, you would look at the top 3 and choose one, means you could find something that you could hopefully play immediately. She does have a lot of events, so there's a really good chance that you could just flip down and draw some Hex Bolts and not be able to do anything with them, which would be a real shame. She has really good access, or generally good access to Confuse. If you get lucky with the boost icons on the cards you flip with Hex Bolt, you're going to be able to confuse the villain if you want to. As far as wanting to be in hero form during the villain phase, she has the crest that she can manipulate the boost icons, which is good for her. She has a really good hero power that allows her to manipulate things. And then it's a real shame when you're in Alter Ego and you have Warp Reality in your hand and you can't cancel the encounter card. So she likes being in hero form during the villain phase for sure. She very well might have a tough, or the villain might be stunned. So as far as does she want to be flipping down so often, I don't know if she's going to get a ton of benefit. I think she generally is happy to just confuse and stay down, though like I did say, it is a shame if you can't use Warp Reality. I'm not feeling super excited about this. She could use a Quinn Carrier to pay for it, so there is that element of it. At the very least, for me personally, it would be nice to have a fun new way to play Scarlet Witch, add a new wrinkle. I've played her so very much. She's definitely one of my most played heroes, to the point where I will probably end up trying it. But without Quicksilver on the table, well, I guess you are getting your cards back because you get one from here, and then you're getting your hand size +1 and maybe a third card. Okay, I'm going to try it. I'm going to put her in the she's not that excited about it pile, though I think I'm still going to try it. Maybe I'm off here, but I don't think she's so excited about being an Alter Ego, and I don't think she's so excited about flipping back to hero form. So I think that must put her in the red pile. Shadowcat is next, another hero that I, at least off the top of my head, doesn't love being an alter ego for any particular reason. She doesn't really have an alter ego power. She does have an alter ego support. That does get her a card, hypothetically, or it could heal her, though she doesn't usually need healed. So if you flip down, you would maybe get a card from this if you're in the right form, and you could change to that form, I guess. Yeah, you can choose. And then, you know, so she could get the resources out of it. She definitely wants to be in hero form during the villain phase because she can block so easily and take no damage. And if you have quick shift, you draw a lot of cards. Obviously, if you're playing her in protection, you're going to be some version of her where she blocks and takes no damage. It's very good for her. You get all the benefits of it. So she's benefiting far more for being in hero form during the villain phase. If she wanted to go to Alter Ego, she's got a couple copies of Phased and Confused, so she could get there with non-stalwart and steady villains. So I'm going to say she wants to be in hero form so much, and she's not that interested in getting to her Alter Ego all that often, that I'm going to say it's not really a card. You know, I think her protection deck is pretty stuffed too, with lots and lots of really good cards. So we're going to say she is in the less excited pile. And as we're sort of rounding the corner, we're about 70-75%. I will say I'm honestly a little surprised, and disappointed would be a strong word, but yeah, I'm just a little taken aback at how many heroes I'm deciding ultimately it might not be as good for. I really, really thought there would be just a handful. Now, there's still quite a few that I think it's going to be worth using with. So, you know, it was still fun to talk about, but if it ends up where it's not nearly as ubiquitous as my original thinking was it worth coming out of semi-retirement for to make a video about just this card? Well, I'm still having fun, and I like to do this every now and then at least. She-Hulk is next, and I feel like she's going to be a really good one for this because she definitely wants to be flipping back and forth. Her whole thing is when she changes to hero form, you get to deal 2 free damage. So you want to be flipping, but She-Hulk is definitely one of the heroes that has the hardest time flipping to Alter Ego and solo, especially in protection, because, you know, she's just so very bad at thwarting. She does have 1 split personality, so she has access to Alter Ego once in a while. I was trying to think of the sequence in my head. I think this would interact kind of weirdly with Ready for a Fight, because say you started your turn in Alter Ego, which is what you want to be. No, you want to be starting your turn with in hero form, split personality, right? And then you play, you do whatever you can afford to do. And then you play this, flip down, draw 6 cards, flip back up. You know, you've got 6 new cards. You do more stuff. You do your 2 free damage from flipping. And then you would flip down. Then you could flip. No, then you wouldn't be able to flip down with Ready for a Fight. So, yeah. So it does interact weirdly with split personality. But, you know, that's just 1 card in the deck. And Ready for a Fight would allow her to do it a lot more. As far as when she's in Alter Ego, she could be thwarting with the Superhuman Law Division. So being able to flip down and use this every turn would certainly be beneficial. There's no card draw there, though she is a 4 hand size hero. I keep flipping the wrong card over. And 6 in Alter Ego. So she's getting 2 cards back just from being in Alter Ego form. So you're getting your 2 resources that you spent on Ready for a Fight back, no problem. I think she has, I meant to look, I don't remember. I think she has a decent amount of punch resources in her deck. At the very least, Legal Practice is, you're not really going to play it probably. So there's a physical resource you can use to pay for it. And she can also use the Quinn Carrier too. She doesn't have a ton of resources usually to try to put this burden on her. But the fact that she's would theoretically have a 6 card hand size every turn would really alleviate that. So definitely one I want to try, to the point where I get, so my question is, do I think it's so good for her that you even want to be putting practice plans in to really be doing it every turn? And I think you do. I think because of going from that 6 hand size to 4 hand size and flipping up and getting the 2 damage every turn, that is really worthwhile. Now, as far as being in hero form during the villain phase, well, she certainly doesn't want the villain to scheme. So that is beneficial for her. And she has 15 health. And she doesn't mind taking damage. You know, she has the Gamma Slam, so she doesn't mind getting hit anyway, kind of wants to build that up. And so I think she would be actually possibly a top-tier candidate, if nothing else, just for the bigger hand size. You know, you draw more options every turn, and being able to use this every turn, if you can get this out to remove 2 threat, would be quite nice as well. So we're going to put her in the good pile. I think that is a good place for her. Now we get to the spider that brought Ready for a Fight to us so very kindly, Silk. Funnily enough, I haven't played Silk in protection. I switched her straight to Justice for whatever reason. That was just the way I wanted to play her. So I haven't actually, and I'm sure she's very good in protection, but I just haven't got around to that yet. But it came with her, so surely they thought it would work at least decently. And I know from playing her a lot in Justice that she really likes getting to Alter Ego back and forth. At least that's why I was playing her, and it was working super well because you can discard one of her tucked cards, which ended up being so easy to come by. My fear for her for solo was that maybe it would be hard to get all the tucked cards and you would run out all the time. But at least the way I was playing her, or the scenarios I was playing, I felt like I was always stuffed to the gills with tucked cards, so I wasn't having any trouble there. And so, you get to discard a card to draw 2 cards. That right there is worth it because you're going to be getting a +3 resources at least for flipping down. And then while you're down, there is J. Jonah Jameson that can go get the scoop if you want to. Now, I was getting some use out of this in Justice. I think people aren't very excited about this card because you're thwarting 4 to, just get a tucked card basically and then set up a boost card. So that's kind of a big ask outside of Justice. In Justice, I was actually getting it done once or twice a deck pass, but I don't think you need to. I think I was mostly doing it just because it was there and it was fun. But that's one part of her Alter Ego experience is potentially getting that, though Jonah is just so good at removing threat from side schemes. So if you do get him out, and I was using build support to get him on the table a lot, it was useful. But Albert Moon is great. If you don't have a lot of cards, you can tuck the top card of the encounter deck under him, or under her, I guess, or you can heal. So I was often flipping down and then using him to grab a card, and then the next turn before I flipped up, I would use him to heal, and it was just keeping her really stocked up. It was very nice. So she wants to be flipping down a lot. Now, does she want to be staying in hero form during the villain phase? Well, she has Spider Reflexes, which is a great card because it's another way to get more cards tucked under her, and I think every single opportunity you have to tuck a card, especially in solo, you're going to want to do that. And again, just as usual, if you're playing in protection, it's likely you would prefer to be in hero form during the villain phase anyway. So that's usually the case for most heroes. So I do think she is a really good candidate for it. Definitely wants access to Alter Ego and doesn't really have it easily outside of Ready for a Fight and Professor X. So I'm going to put her in the super good category. I think playing her this way would be really, really fun. She's actually quite possibly in my top 10 already. I actually played quite a bit of Silk and really, really, really like her. Her and Shuri both have just blown me away by how fun they are. I like Silk a little better, but they're both great. Anyway, neither here nor there. I think that would be a really, really good way to play Silk. I think it came with her for a reason, and that she would get a lot of use out of it. One of my favorites from bygone era, I feel like I haven't played her in a long time, but this was very much a favorite of mine for a while, is PDR or Spider Suit or Spider or Special Doctor, is such an interesting hero because she has such a small hand size. 3 in hero form and 4 in 4 in Alter Ego. But when you're in Alter Ego, she gets to exhaust the suit to draw 2 extra cards. So you can basically going sort of from a 3-card hand size to a 6-card hand size by changing forms, though it's going to require, certain exhausting. So right there, like getting to Alter Ego gives her way more cards. So definitely something she's interested in doing. Ejection Protocol is one way she has of getting to Alter Ego. So she kind of has a little bit of access, but not a ton. She doesn't have any Confuse or anything. And the Web Warriors don't have any Confuse and Protection. And Ant-Man and Uncle Ben does work a little bit better in Alter Ego. So that is very worthwhile flipping down for. Instead of looking at the top 2 or discarding the top 2, you're discarding the top 3. So there's a good chance you can end up with a bunch of cards in your hand. And she does have some events, but she has quite a few upgrades and support. So there's definitely a decent chance that you are going to, when you flip down and draw your cards with the suit, there's a good chance you're going to draw stuff you can play. And so I think this all works out really well for her. Now, the tricky thing, now that I'm thinking about it, I don't know why I'm flipping all these cards over, is, on those turns when you only have 3 cards in your hand, is do you want one of those cards to be ready for a fight and another to be a practice plan? Well, I think early on, it really would slow her down. She's already trying so hard to get set up. You got all these upgrades in play. I think once you got rolling, it would be really good because you're going to have so many more cards every turn from flipping down and making use of things. If you set it all up right, I think this could be a really fascinating. I'm going to put it in the super good pile. I have some concerns that it could be a problem early. I'm talking myself out of it. If there are 3 ready for a fight and 3 practice plans, I think she's going to have just that much more trouble getting set up because those cards just aren't impactful enough right off the bat. I'm going to say put 3 ready for a fights in there. Maybe not the practice plans. I think she's going to get a lot of use out of them. I fear if you try to go too hard into it, it's going to slow her down too much, and you already don't need that in solo. So that's where she's going to end up, but it's definitely one I'm very excited to try. Spectrum is a hero that I think is going to have an interesting interaction with this card because she is among the heroes that is the least interested in being in alter ego. She has no alter ego power. She's kind of like Hawkeye and Rogue. She has no alter ego power. She has no alter ego support. And unlike Rogue, she really can't build much in, other than like a crew quarters. There isn't, meditation maybe, I guess. There's not much she can do in alter ego. She doesn't have shield, so she can't, make really good use of Leo, no tech. So my point is, why would Monica want to flip down? Why would she even care? Well, the one reason I think she would want to care is that if you or anything like me, when you play Spectrum, I know this is the cliche thing to say about her, but sometimes you end up getting stuck in the wrong form. And careful play and experience, I'm told, can help you avoid that. But for me, it definitely can happen. And so what flipping down can do with Ready for a Fight with her is he's going to let you change your form for free every turn. It's almost like another form changing card. It is. That's kind of funny. It is a form changing card, but I mean, it's almost another energy form changing card. Her deck already has 14 of those, and somehow I still get stuck in the wrong form. But she has access to 3 more or 6 with practice plans, because if she's flipping down every single turn, when you flip back up into hero form, you'll have that 6 card hand size, which is nice. But you'll also get to choose a new form every single time you flip. And that's why I think is still an interesting choice for Spectrum, even though she has literally no alter ego experience to speak of. Now, as far as paying for it, the energy duplication does give you the printed resources of, if you have Gamma in play, you would have access to physical resource that way. She can also use a Quinn carrier, which I think she really likes to have one of. Anyway, so I am definitely going to try Spectrum with Ready for a Fight. I love that idea of getting to pick my energy form every single time. And you also do get the little benefit. You get to heal 1 or deal damage or remove a threat. So you're also getting that little benefit out of it. So you're paying the 2 resources, the Ready for a Fight, the 2 effective resources. And you're only getting 1 back with the bigger hand size, but you also are getting to trigger this 1 more time than you normally would. So that kind of helps cover the cost of it. Pulsar Shield, the only reason I bothered to put this here is the only reason she cares about being particularly in hero form during the villain phase is she does have a pretty terrible defense card. So she's not overly encouraged to be in hero form during the villain phase specifically, but she's also not overly encouraged to be an alter ego. But I'm still going to put her in the good pile, not the great pile. I don't think you need to be doing it every single turn, but the way that Ready for a Fight sort of pretends to be 3 more energy form changing cards, I think is really interesting and really could help solve the whole getting stuck in the wrong form problem. Another one of my absolute top tier favorite heroes, I think Spider-Ham is like my 3 or 4. I love Spider-Ham so much. And I have played him with Ready for a Fight, and it does work spectacularly well. So I'm going to put him in the good pile. I've had a lot of success with it. He can easily pay for it with all the wild resources with the tune counters. He likes being an alter ego because he has such a high recovery and he gets a tune counter back. That's another resource he can spend later on. So he's getting the value back because he does want to recover. He's got 12 health, but you're taking all those hits all the time. That's his whole thing, is he's getting hit, taking a lot of damage. So he's one I definitely make use of my recovery with. And so you get the resource back there. If you can get the Daily Beagle out, there's another free tune counter you're getting. And tune counters are only resources. You also use them to pay for things like the ability on I Don't Think So and his hammer and his webbing upgrade. So you need tune counters around for a lot of other stuff besides just resources. So it's really good to stock up on them. So getting to flip down at the end of your turn, recover, use the Beagle. There's 2 resources right there plus the bigger hand size. So it's totally worth it. Now, and he definitely is a hero that wants to be in hero form for the villain phase. Like I think he is in that upper tier of heroes where it's the best of both worlds. He wants to flip down pretty often. But he also wants to be in hero form during the villain phase so that he can use I don't think so to cancel a card. You know, he wants to be taking hits, obviously. He does have access to confuse, and he's got 3 of them. And so that was an interesting thing. You know, when I'm playing Ready for a Fight with 3 practice plans, that means I want to be triggering it literally every single turn if possible, and confuse messes that up. So that was an interesting choice because you don't want to not play your 6 damage event, though I was feeling a little bit more free to use this to kill minions because I was less interested in confusing the villain than I usually am. So that sort of created a different dynamic. You know, usually I always just throw this card at the villain just to confuse him, even early in the game when I'm less interested in damaging the villain typically. But you want to get that confused so you can flip down. When I was playing with the Ready for a Fight, I found myself just using this to blow up big minions and letting the Ready for a Fight give me access to Alter Ego. So it worked really well. I had a lot of fun with it. So I definitely recommend that. I think he is very much in the upper tier. One of the best heroes probably for Ready for a Fight. Now we go from one of the best to probably one of the worst for this card, I'm guessing. In Spider-Man Miles Morales, does any other hero have as much access to their alter ego already? More than Miles, maybe Colossus, because he's got a ton of confuse. You know, he's almost like Psylocke. He can sort of confuse at will, but he wants to be flipping down because he has one of those where when he changes to that form, he gets to shuffle a card back in. So it works out really well. You flip down, you get to shuffle a card back in. That's good. He has 2 copies of Double Life, and you can shuffle them back in. So he can already basically do the Ready for a Fight thing. So he doesn't really need it for that. You know, here he can trigger Spider Camouflage so easily. He loves his alter ego. He's got Genki and Jefferson Davis. So, you know, you flip down, you get to draw a card. And if you're an alter ego, you get to keep it with Genki. And then you get to remove a threat, maybe, with Jefferson Davis. That card works, it's kind of some weird quirks with it. But, you know, if you have them both out, you're getting a lot out of flipping down. And then, you know, he doesn't mind being an alter ego because he in hero form during the villain phase because he's probably either tough or the villain is probably stunned. So the whole flipping down and flipping back up thing works fine for him. But he just doesn't really need it because he can already do it so well. He can pay for it easily with the web shooters. And yeah, he's getting toughs and confuses. So it would work. I just wonder if it would be like a Colossus situation where you would just never really trigger it because you're already doing it. Now, I think it interacts with Double Life similarly to how it does with Split Personality. So say you played Double Life to flip down to hero form, you did all your stuff, you get to Ready with this card, and then if you chose to flip back into hero form, you wouldn't then be able to flip back down with Ready for a Fight. Yeah, so it doesn't, I just don't think he needs it. So maybe say your stalwart villains, but even then he has 2 copies of Double Life that he can pretty easily shuffle back into the deck if you really, really wanted to be flipping down a lot. So we're going to say he doesn't need it. It works really well for him, except for he's already doing it. So he just doesn't need it. The other Spider-Man, however, is one of the ones that I did build up for, and I found like it worked really, really, really well. Now, we know Spider-Man would come at it from a different direction to start. We know he wants to be in hero form during the villain phase because he gets that free card when he gets attacked, to the point where I don't even like playing webbed up myself because I really want to be getting attacked. I want to be drawing that extra card, and here I'm just paying 5 effective resources for the privilege of not getting to draw an extra card a couple times in the villain phase. He has Enhanced Spider Sense, which is really, really good, and so you want to be able to be in hero form to pay for that, to play that. He has Backflip, you want to be in hero form to play that, so just lots of good reasons to be in hero form, but he has lots of good reasons to be in alter ego too. He gets a free resource, so that right there easily covers the cost, the resource there and the extra hand size. And you get to heal for 4 every single turn with Aunt May. And that's where I was really having fun with this, where I was just absolutely taking the hits to the face, you know, unless I had a backflip. But I wasn't bothering to defend anything, so I could focus on other things. And then I knew that I could just flip down every single turn with Ready for a Fight. Sorry, I'm doing my best to avoid the glare. Doing my best, taking damage and then flipping down with Aunt May to heal for every turn is a really fun play style. But he has the 2 web shooters and access to a Quinn carrier, so he doesn't have any trouble paying for it, really. Some people I know when they like to build up Peter Parker, they want to fill it with mental resources to power up Black Cat. You know, I guess that's just something you won't be doing here. But this worked really well. I thought it was really fun. I think doing it again, I probably wouldn't do the practice plan. So I don't think it's something he needs to be doing every single turn. But I think it is definitely, could even be a staple for Peter Parker Spider-Man. Getting that easy access to Aunt May and protection in solo is going to be really, really nice. Not something he can normally do very easily. Spider-Man is not very good at thwarting, and he doesn't have access to anything other than Professor X for Confused. So I think 3 copies of Ready for a Fight for him could be really good just in general. Spider-Woman is one I honestly haven't thought much about, so we're going to figure this one out together. Now, her alter ego experience is just pretty good. You know, she gets to look at the top card of a deck, which is mildly useful, but it doesn't net her any resources. Though her apartment does. You get to, hopefully, you can search top 5 cards for an aspect card. Usually you can find one and put it in your hand. And the nice thing about this is since you're getting to choose a card, or at least if you have options you're getting to choose, hopefully you can find something that you can actually play by flipping down at the end of your turn. But she does have a lot of events, so there's a good chance that, you know, you're going to end up with an event. And she kind of likes playing events because they cycle through her deck and she can keep playing them over and over. So you might not want to stock her up too much on upgrades and supports. She has pretty easy access to Alter Ego. At least she has a couple Confuses in her deck, so that gets her there as often as she needs to go. As far as wanting to be in hero form during the villain phase, you know, she has this that gives her a tough, and she can heal up, so she doesn't mind taking hits. She's pretty tanky in general. So between all the Sun and Confuse and then this, you know, she's not usually dying to damage. So, but my point there, though, is just that she's not overly dying to be in hero form. And also, here's another one. How does this interact? So when you play an aspect, she gets the stats until the end of the round. You know, if she plays a couple different aspects and then she flips back into hero form, does she still have the defense boost similar to Quicksilver? I just don't know. I'm still tempted to say that she does, because this is just sort of like a lasting effect. And I don't think it goes away just because she flips over. But, you know, sometimes you just never know with this game. Sometimes things go not the way you would expect. Okay, so anyway, all of that to say, does she really want to be flipping down every single turn just to use the apartment to find a card there's a good chance she won't be able to play anyway? I don't think so. I don't think this is a good card for her. And then, especially if you put the practice plans in, those are basic, so those aren't even triggering her ability. It is a nice cheap protection card for her to play, but, you know, there's a lot of those. So we're going to say Spider-Woman, for as many awesome different types of decks that she can play, is not really a good card for her. Oh, I did also have this, I guess. She can easily pay for it if she wanted to. So there is that element of it, but I just don't think she's getting enough use out of it for it to justify the deck space. Star-Lord can build all kinds of interesting decks. Let's see if Ready for a Fight is one of them. So being in his alter ego form, you get to swap a card with the top card of your deck. So that's kind of like drawing a card, but not exactly. You're not netting a resource there, so you're really only getting the one back for the hand size. He wants to be in hero form during the villain phase, certainly, because you want to get the +1 hand size for face down cards. You know, usually you have at least one. So he's already kind of has a 6-card hand size in alter ego, so he would be missing out then by flipping down with Ready for a Fight. He does have Bad Boy, which gives him some access to his alter ego, but it's not that big of a deal. As far as whether or not he wants to be in hero form during the villain phase, I don't think he's particularly excited about being there. He's going to take a beating from all the extra encounter cards, so I think maybe flipping to alter ego is the way to go for him. If you know, he can. He doesn't really have easy access to it, I guess, is the whole point. But I think the fact that he would lose out on the bonus from the helmet, which is one of his best cards, alone is good enough to not really want to be doing this. It's very counteractive to what he's trying to do. So we're going to say not really a new card for Peter Quill. Next up, we have Storm. Storm is another one. Yet again, there's more heroes. I'm finding out there are a lot more heroes without alter ego powers than I realized. I just never noticed, I guess, how many heroes don't have an alter ego power. She does have her Garden, which gives her access to a little bit of healing by flipping down, but she doesn't have any meaningful resource generation by going to alter ego, or really any, other than a slightly bigger hand size. As far as any reasons to be in hero form during the villain phase, well, she has access to Retaliate, and Flash Freeze is a really, really good defense pack card that you definitely want to play when you have access to it. So she doesn't mind being in hero form, but I don't think she really cares about going to alter ego. So we're going to keep this one short and sweet. I just don't see any reason to put ready for a fights in a storm deck. You can flip down, but then I don't know what you're really going to do other than heal a little bit, and that's probably not worth spending the resources on. Now, one I do think should be pretty interesting is Thor. He's a 4-card hand size, and unfortunately he only goes up to 5 in Alter Ego. So he only nets 1. It's not one of those that goes from 4 to 6, unfortunately. And then if you have Asgard, it goes from 5 to 6, so it's the same either way. It does let you go get Mjolnir, and what I think this could lead to potentially is a fun interaction with Mjolnir that you don't normally get to do, certainly not in Protection, where you could do a hammer throw, which returns Mjolnir to your hand, and then instead of immediately paying for it and putting it back down, you could then flip to Alter Ego. You have Mjolnir in your hand, you could discard it for a resource, so you're kind of netting a resource there, and then you could pull it back to your hand and either hold it for next turn, play it again, or you could just leave it there and get it on a later turn. So it definitely makes the whole throwing the hammer thing a little more dynamic. But again, you're not really netting any resources because you're just going to have to pay for Mjolnir again. He does have 4 Asgard that you could potentially flip down and search for a card. He doesn't mind recovering every now and then. I think certainly if you were going to be doing this with him, you would want to be recovering. I would say, I'm talking myself out of it. In my head, I thought Thor was going to at least end up in the good pile. But the other thing, if you are trying to get some punch resources in there to make sure that you can pay for it, though he has the Quinn Carrier, you're not going to have as many lightning resources for his lightning strikes. His God of Thunders only pay for lightning. And so I was going to put him here, but I think I talked myself into putting him here. I guess the big thing, now that I'm looking at his hero form, the main thing is, of course, Thor wants to be in hero form every single round because it really stinks to flip up a minion when you're in your Alter Ego and draw, and then you miss out on the draw. So he definitely wants to be in hero form. He's got a ton of health, so he doesn't mind getting hit. And I'm talking myself back into it because Limitless Staminas also have a punch resource. So you're already been putting some cards in the deck with punch resources. I guess is why when you're flipping down, what are you doing? You could be recovering if he was ready. And if you're playing Protection, he has lots of ways to ready himself, Ever Vigilant, What Doesn't Kill Me, and so on. And so you could easily Ever Vigilant, remove some threat, and then flip down and recover for 4, which would be pretty good. And then you're going to be right back in the hero form. So you're going to be drawing your 5 or 6 with Asgard, and then you're getting 2 more back. You know what? I talked myself into it. Ultimately because I had forgotten that he wants to be in hero form so much, but flipping down and recovering would be actually quite nice for him. So we're gonna give it a try. We're gonna put him in the middle. Obviously that was very wishy-washy, so maybe it's not that exciting, but I think it is worth looking into for him. And I think there's a good chance if you play a version of him that is intending to use his recovery a decent amount, and I think that is a factor in Ready for a Fight. You want to have your recovery in mind because you're going to have so much access to it. That is something he could make a lot of use out of. Valkyrie. Oh, Valkyrie. I think she is probably the most interesting, most talked about hero in this whole game. And there's another brand new card, the Infiltration, that works exceptionally well with her. I actually just posted a deck with that. I haven't posted a deck on CDB in years, I don't think, but I was so excited by how well Infiltration worked with her and how much control it gave her. And it just really flowed nicely that I actually posted a deck. So, check that out if you happen to see it on there. It's called Shadow Infiltration. Anyway, my point is, we're here to talk about Ready for a Fight and not Infiltration. So did she get another cool new card that works well for her? Well, we know that she has some Alter Ego stuff. That's one of the things with Valkyrie that makes her so interesting, is she's super-de-duper bad at thwarting. Probably the worst solo hero in the game for thwarting, or at least top, bottom 3. But, it's the only way to get Deathglow back if you put it on the villain, and you probably just shouldn't do that in general, because what are you really getting for putting Deathglow on the villain? It gives you access to Shield Maiden, which even then is not that great. It's okay. And it's going to do a little bit more damage when you attack with Dragon Fang, but it's so hard to get back that you just never ever bother. So if you were flipping to Alter Ego at the end of pretty much every turn, hypothetically, you could be putting Deathglow on the villain more often. And then when you flip up into hero form, maybe you could actually use a Shield Maiden. You know, it's almost worth it just for that, because I think I can safely say to this day, I have never played Shield Maiden, and I have played a lot of Valkyrie. I do love her gameplay, though she frustrates me that she's as clunky as she is. But I still just keep coming back to her, and I am really enjoying the heck out of the new Justice deck. Annabelle is good if you have access to your alter ego. You know, you could potentially go and find a card. She has quite a few upgrades that you want to get on the table, so if you do end up finding something, there's a good chance that you could play it while you were flipped down. Visit Valhalla is really good. It should just read return chooser of this lane to your hand, because it's pretty much what I always use it for. But it is nice to be able to use that to get a third access to another copy, basically your third copy of Chooser of this lane. She has a nice high recovery, which is good, and a ton of health, so she's very tanky. I'm kind of talking myself into trying this. Now, the thing about Valkyrie in solo, in protection, is it's just already going to be tough. Like, she's just not the best solo here, and she's probably not meant to be, so it's fine. It's not really even a criticism. It's just a fact. So if we're talking about ready for a fight in solo, does she have room for it? Does she need to get to alter ego so much that it's going to be worth sacrificing deck slots to, that could go to things that could help you thwart or stay alive or remove damage, deal damage? I just don't think she has the space for it. I don't think she gets enough out of it that I'm going to say no. I kind of want to try it, though, just because I'm always trying different things with Valkyrie because I like her so much, though I recognize all of her limitations so very well, so very clearly to me. But I'm going to say when you're playing her in solo, every card has to be so meaningful. And so I don't think she has room for it, though I do think she could benefit from it. So it's probably still worth a try. Also, Venom is coming up next. He can very, very easily pay for Ready for a Fight with his wild resource generator built right in, so that's no problem. He doesn't have an alter ego ability, though he does have a pretty good support in that he can heal 3 or draw a card, and he often needs to heal because he damages himself at least once a turn, pretty much. Sometimes twice, especially in protection. If you are using that ability to pay for a protection event, that's actually one of the more fun ways to play Venom, I think, because you can use this once per phase. It is nice that in protection you can use this to pay for a defense event. And so he definitely likes the idea of being in hero form during the villain phase, so it works for him in that respect. He does have access to his alter ego. He has some Confuse, which is good. And yeah, he definitely wants to be in hero form for things like Spider Sense and Grasping Tendrils. You know, it's really easy for him to be taking hits from the villain because they're either going to be canceled or stunned, which is quite nice. He gets to draw a card from it. So he likes to be in hero form. And then if he flips down, what's he getting? So he's getting, one more hand size. I don't know why I keep flipping over all the cards. And then he could do some healing. But this could be a very similar to a Peter Parker situation where he could be flipping down and healing pretty much every turn. So he isn't really getting the resources back for it necessarily. Like, you're kind of paying an extra resource every turn just for the access to this. Most heroes, they are sort of getting those resources back. Venom really isn't. He doesn't really have anything else he could build in to the deck, so I think it would be worth trying. He can pay for it so easily, and if not, he's going to get access to this every single turn, which could be really good for him. So I think it's worth trying. I think it's similar to Spider-Man, not quite as good because he doesn't also get that scientist resource, unfortunately. Spider-Man can also, I should have said, flip down and play like Moon Girl and Ingenuity. So Spider-Man really likes having access to his alter ego. Venom just kind of likes it, but I think it would certainly be worth trying. Vision, we are sort of rounding the corner for the end. This has been I think it's going to turn out to be a very long video, but I only make one of these every now and then, so I don't mind kind of spending some extra time with you guys, and hopefully you don't mind listening to me ramble on forever about just one card. Though the thing about, I'm going to say this real quick, just make the video even longer, random thoughts. The longer this game goes on, we're up to 59 heroes now. When there are like 75 heroes, are we still going to be making videos like, oh, here's this cool card. Let's talk about how it works with every single one of our 75 heroes. We might have to start considering different ways of presenting the information. Does Vision care about Ready for a Fight? Well, he can easily pay for it, Solar Gem, so that part isn't a problem. It's worth form in that respect. He doesn't have an alter ego ability necessarily. It's more just tied to what form he's in will determine if he gets more cards or more recovery. So that's not that exciting. But what he does have is Hickory Branch Lane and Vivian. And so if you were flipping down every single turn, you could be getting Vivian back constantly, or any android. You know, in protection, you would have Jocasta, you would have Victor Mancha, and Machine Man would also be an option. So, you know, you could be using Hickory Branch Lane every single turn to constantly be recycling those allies. Could be really, really fun. Obviously, everybody knows Vivian is super good. As far as wanting to be in hero form during the villain phase, he has a really super wonky defense card. I don't think it would be the end of the world if you didn't get to play that. And he has a little bit of access with this Confuse. So all that to say, I don't think he cares that much about staying in hero form. Now, one thing, yes, maybe he does. Because if you are in Intangible, I don't think I didn't grab that card. But if you're in Intangible, you know, you're taking 2 less damage from minions. And so Vision has a habit of sort of collecting minions in front of him. Certainly in aggression, because then he can play Bring It. It's a really fun way to play him. So he's less incentivized to do that in protection, though he's also not necessarily super good at killing them. So just leaving them there to not damage them is a really fine way to play. The problem is if you try to go to Alter Ego, now you've got 3, 4, 5 minions in front of you that are all going to scheme. And you don't want that. So what this would let you do is it would let you access your Alter Ego pretty frequently, and you wouldn't have to fear the minions scheming. And I think that could be really fun. And I just think recycling those as allies, especially, you know, being able to play, use Jocasta every single turn. You know, he interacts weirdly with defense events if you're in your tangible form. So I'm not 100% sure how much you should get out of Jocasta, but I'm sure there's something you could probably do there. So and you know, just having Vivian and Machine Man going in and out all the time could be good too. So I'm going to say he's good for it. Because just this, I think bouncing those allies could be a fun and different way to play Vision. And that's kind of the name of the game, right? I mean, Vision's been out for how long? And if we're still finding new ways to play him just because there's a new card that comes out, I think that's super worth trying. I wouldn't put 3 practice plans in there. I don't think you need to do it every single turn. But I think it's worth throwing 3 in there and seeing how it works. All right, just the last few heroes here. War Machine, I can tell you Nelson played War Machine on stream, and it worked very, very well. And I think he's going to be among the best users of this because he has a very good reason to be wanting to flip into hero form every turn. I didn't grab his shoulder cannon for some reason, but you want to be using the 5 ammo counters up every turn, and you could replenish those every single turn with Ready for a Fight. You flip down. You could put a couple counters on Munition Bunker. And then the last thing Rhodey wants is the villain scheming because he's so bad at thwarting. But you could flip down, you could shuffle a card back in. Usually it's your thwart event. And that would actually really, really add a lot of consistency to his thwarting if you were shuffling that thwart event back in every single turn. And then you know, when he flips back up, he gets the chassis, gives him a tough. Yeah, I mean, Nelson made really good use out of it. So I've already seen it, so I already know it works. And so these thoughts aren't really mine, giving credit where it's due. But yeah, it works really, really well for War Machine. Definitely a top tier card for him, I think. 3 Ready for a Fights, 2 or 3 practice plans. You want to be flipping every turn. You can just unleash those ammo counters without any fear because you're going to be able to get them back right away. He doesn't necessarily get the economy back for it, but you're getting so much other benefit that it's still worth spending the resources, I think, to do it. So that is good for War Machine. Wasp is actually the first hero that I tried Ready for a Fight in. If you have watched this channel before, you probably know how much I love Wasp. And the main thing I love so much about Wasp, even though it's kind of so simple, is I just really enjoy her alter ego ability, shuffling cards back in with a printed mental resource. You know, getting 2 cards back, and there's just so many good cards in the game that have mental resources. So it just adds a ton of consistency to her deck. Plus the Pinpoint Strikes, a lot of her cards have mental, and Pinpoint Strike is one of the best attack events in the game. She already has 3 of them, and then you can recycle them with this ability. So getting access to that, she can do a ton of damage, particularly in her tiny form, because this does 8 damage with overkill. And then if you did kill a minion, you're triggering this to deal another additional damage. Just shuffling Genius back in, every turn or every couple turns is really, really good. Boosts her economy a lot. She really needs the help with her economy. So obviously she has a huge focus on mental resources. So the Ready for a Fight isn't the easiest thing for her to play. You definitely want to prioritize getting a Quinn carrier out. Now she can already get to Alter Ego a decent amount because she can recycle Professor X. So you can be playing him a lot, having a lot of Confuse. But for me, it was really fun to just flip down and use this every turn. And I was mostly focusing on keeping the pinpoint strikes flowing. And it was a very aggressive form of Wasp, where you're already playing protection, so she can tank the hits pretty well. She's decently tanky. She has 11 hit points, and if you're in giant form, you can heal with the pin particles. So there is a lot of flipping back and forth, even more than usual. I really, really liked it with Wasp. Similar to what I said about Spider-Man, if I could do it again, I don't know that I would also include the practice plans. I think just having 3 Ready for a Fights is enough to do what she wants to be doing. You don't have to make it such a priority to take up that extra deck space, but I think it's definitely worth it for her. She already plays pretty well in protection with Ever Vigilant, and Perseverance can work really well for her, can be recycled, and she can play those cards pretty easily. So she's got a good protection deck anyway, and I think Ready for a Fight really adds to it, but you are definitely going to want that Quinn carrier. Wolverine is not someone I have played a ton. He's so single-mindedly focused on damaging the villain, which just isn't my favorite way to play the game. I like to build out and sort of take my time and control things a little more. So I haven't played a ton of Wolverine, so I haven't really thought twice about how much he likes this card. When he goes to Alter Ego, he does miss out on his healing, but Ready for a Fight would work out where you would still start your turn in hero form, so you would get to heal too. So it would give him access to his recovery and his healing factor. So I don't know if you need to heal 8 a turn, but you could, so there's that. He doesn't have an Alter Ego ability, but he does have Logan's Cabin, which allows you to shuffle a Wolverine card, discard pack into your deck. It's kind of just a weirdly generic Alter Ego support for him, I think. But like I said earlier, I think the idea, at least with the mutants, is they gave a lot of mutants, not all of them, but a lot of them, a way to get their cards back, just because their mutant powers are so much a part of who they are. They should have more access to them. And so I guess they did give every mutant that with Mutant Education. That card also does that. So there you go. They really, really want the mutants to have their powers. So you could access this every turn. That's not that exciting, and there's no resource benefit for flipping down for him other than the increased hand size. So you're going to be paying for the benefit of flipping down and not getting those resources back. And really the only thing you're going to be doing is shuffling a card back in and recovering. And so, plus you would lose your Berserker Frenzy, which is pretty much his most fun card. So I just don't think he really has any use for this card. Wow. Hello.
Hello.
I am so close to being done.
Okay.
I'm on the last hero, and then I just need to do a conclusion. So like 4 minutes, tops.
Because they want you to get them out of the card. They don't want me to get them out of the card.
Okay, can you just run interference for like 2 minutes? I'll just wrap it up. And finally, we get to the last hero, X-23, another one of my favorites. You know, she might be my favorite hero. I haven't made a hero ranking in a long time, but I have said online that she has replaced Drax. I love X-23 so much. How does she interact with this card? Well, shuffling Honey Badger or Sisterly Bond back in is very good, and she gets to draw a card. So that right there is really good. She gets that 6 recovery access. She loves that. So that is really good. And so yeah, I guess I just put those cards here to show, she could shuffle these guys back in, make it very easy to get them back. Now, it's easy to keep Honey Badger on the table, especially in protection. But still, if you lose her for whatever reason, you can get her back. Or having the access to the Sisterly Bond more frequently would actually be the better benefit there. Would be really fun. She has a wild resource generator, so paying for Ready for a Fight is not a problem. And she likes to be in hero form because she has Retaliate, and she gets that sort of free defense similar to how Quicksilver is. So I'm gonna keep this one short and sweet, partially because I really need to wrap this up and go, and partially because I think it's a simple choice. I think she would love 3 Ready for a Fights and 3 practice plans, I think she could get a ton of benefit out of flipping out of that card. So there we go. So that was all 59 heroes. So let's see, out of 59, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26. So just under half of the heroes, I think, don't care about this card at all. And then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 of them, I think, love this card and would have a really good ready for a fight focused build. And then whatever the math ends up being for the middle heroes, is that's a card that at least becomes considerable for every one of their protection decks. I think they can all get enough benefit that 2 or 3 copies of is going to make playing them a little bit more dynamic. The reason I love going to Alter Ego and solo, or just in general, is I just love how dynamic it makes the game. You're flipping back and forth. You're seeing all of your hero. You need to do everything your hero can do. And I just think it's such a fun way to play. And I know a lot of solo players often will ignore their alter ego, or I hear people say all the time, I won the game and I never even had to go to alter ego once. And I'm like, man, you make it sound like a punishment. I don't understand. I want to go to alter ego as often as I can. I think it's so fun. And I think it's often viewed as a negative thing, or it's like, oh shoot, I had to go to alter ego. That wasn't as good of a game. And that's just never been my mentality. I love it. So ready for a fight, just giving access to that is so much fun. So I love that card. I think we've shown that it works really well for at least half the heroes in the game. So I think this was very much worth talking about. And I want to thank you so much for joining me for a super overly long video about a pretty simple topic, but it's something I'm excited about, and I hope other people are excited about. I know there are people out there loving this card too. And man, this game is still so great, and it was an excuse for me to check in and say hi. As always, I have no idea how often I'm going to be able to do this. It was really hard to make this happen, to be honest. But I'm glad I did, and I'm excited to get this edited and get it out there and just kind of be chatting with you all. Just drop in the comments and say hi. Tell me what you've been playing. Just haven't been able to talk with you all in a while. And thank you so much for joining me, and I hope to see you next time we get up and game. Take care, folks. Bye-bye.